And welcome to a brand new life, to a brand new day, all the way from the wastelands of California. My name is Michael, and I am the creator of all that you hear. I look forward to once again serve you those sounds of salvation. First time listeners, turn on, tune in, and drop out. This is a very different kind of show, a place where we don't feel so alone. Let us chase away the light no matter what you at home choose to believe. I do admire you for your curiosity. Live and direct. Streaming to you now live on YouTube. You can find the podcast rendition of this program by searching End of Days on all popular platforms, or simply go to michaeldecon.com for further assistance. Yeah, that's a lot quicker. Now, tonight will be a bit of a rattlesnake. The guest first up tonight is a real treat. This is like something out of the video game Fallout, except this is real. My guest built the largest private nuclear fallout shelter in North America. Joining me this evening is Mr. Bruce Beach. That's right, Bruce Beach. He has created something rather amazing, ladies and gentlemen. Dubbed the Ark 2. This is going to be very, very fascinating. Let's bring him in already. I know he's waiting around.
Yes, I'm right here, Michael.
Oh, you're right there. I'm so glad. You're right there and you're ready and ready to roll here. I'm glad you're here, Bruce. It's been a long time since the first time I've actually heard about you. It's just your name came around again by some of the listeners, and it really made me think now is the right time. It's the perfect time to bring you on with so much going on in the world. I thought about you right away, Bruce.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk to anyone that wishes to talk about these things and hear about these things. And I have a wide spectrum of information about these times that I'd like to talk to people, and I like to talk to them individually. If we have an idea here, we want to tell people if they wanted to talk to me for what we call a Zoom chat, that I would take 5 people at a time, and we would sit down and discuss what is actually called the most clear proof. It was developed by Newton, and it's just about an idea about these times that is beyond anything that we could put on the air or discuss about.
That's
even
true.
Here, as open the world is today.
Right.
So if anybody wants to talk with me, they can just send me an email at bruce@webpal.org. WEBPAL.org, Bruce@webpal.org, and say chat, and we'll set up a time when we can do this, 5 people at a time.
That's very nice of you. And of course, if anyone out there wants to call in, that number is 760-332-8724. For those that need that number one more time, that number is 760-332-8724. Don't be afraid to call in. Bruce is ready to take your calls. He wants to get your opinion. And of course, I'm always interested in your opinions out there as well. So now let's get down to brass tacks, Bruce. Lots of things going on out there. And of course, where are my manners? I'm so rude. Welcome to End of Days, Bruce. I'm so glad you're here. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been looking forward to talking to you for such a long time. And of course, I've been completely impressed with your creation in the Ark 2. And of course, I've seen plenty of your videos and interviews going back many, many years now. And of course, Bruce, let's go over your background here as we begin.
Well, okay. I was born in Kansas many decades ago. I'm in my 80s now. And I served in the U.S. military in what are called secret air bases. Particularly, there were Camp Sentry and Camp Iceworm. These were, I did not, while I was there, I did not know that we were a base with supporting nuclear-mounted warheads. And in fact, we weren't at the time that I was there. We were developing the base for that purpose. And after I left, then they brought in the missiles with nuclear warheads to these bases. They were up on the ice cap in the Arctic. And I was also a control tower operator at one of the 5 experimental Air Force bases in the U.S. where secret aircraft are permitted to land. And seeing as a control tower operator, there are many UFOs. And so that was my early years, and what made me concerned about the technology in the world and nuclear weapons and all, that I went on, became a radiological scientific officer. I built a number of shelters, mainly in Kansas and Utah, before coming to Canada, and over 20. And I have consulted on thousands of fallouts. Well, no, that's an exaggeration. I don't know how many people have used our facilities, but to personally talk with people and direct them in building their own shelter, it is in the hundreds.
Yeah, there's a lot of shelters you are responsible for. And of course, I do have to ask this. I am quite curious about both mom and dad. Anything you remember quite vividly about mom and dad? Were they strict parents, Bruce?
Mine?
Yes.
My life was very, very unusual in that way. I tell people I had 2 mothers,
okay.
Because my grandmother lived with us, and I was the most mothered only child in the world. Nobody was ever provided for more than what I was as a child. So I was lived a very, very favored life in that regards.
And were they interested at all in any of these subjects that you are interested now?
My father was unusual, and at that many decades ago, college educated. He was in his early years a teacher, and and ours was a very intellectual family, and but we studied every day in the area of metaphysics. So this was a very unusual experience for a child, and for my background in being raised up, yes.
I would have to imagine. I'm just curious where that sort of interest came for you exactly. If it came from mom or dad, or perhaps a friend or someone in the family, something along those lines.
Mainly my grandmother, I would expect. So like I said, I had 2 mothers. They lived with us all my youth until I went into the military, and so I was well grounded in it at that time. But I had just grown weary of school, and so I quit after 3 years of high school. And my parents would not sign for me to go into the service unless I promised to finish high school while I was in the service under one of their programs there. And I got into the service, and it changed my outlook about the importance of education. And so I went in with only 3 years of high school, but I came out of the service with 3 years of college. And so I got an early release for about 3 months early, so I could start at the beginning of the semester. And so 1 year later, I had completed my bachelor's degree from the same college as had my father, my aunt, and my uncle. And then I went on to altogether which was very unusual at that time. Anyone can do it today because of the internet, and you can take courses from any school, many schools. I still take college courses these days from Harvard University and places like that.
Well, that's good.
And anyone can do this. And if you don't want a piece of paper for taking the course, you can take it for free. And so we have free access to many of them. But before I got my master's degree, I had attended or taken courses through 11 universities in the total all in the military and so forth. And so just blessed with an education and background and freedom to look for ideas that very, very few people in the whole the grand history of this world have had that opportunity.
Yes, and of course, stay sharp out there, boys and girls. Always read something or do something with your mind. It's good to keep it sharp, even at a later stage in life. Like our friend Bruce here, who's keeping sharp, which is a good thing, Bruce. That's very good for you.
The world, I had exceptional opportunities to meet many people who just had information, and I'm talking about college professors and people of note to help me on studying and ideas that most people do not have that access to people. In the area of shelters and radiation and fallout and so forth, I received direct instruction from Crescent Kearney, and the people who are familiar with he wrote, so to speak, they used the word the Bible on the subject of nuclear fallout and radiation, and because he led the experiments at Los Alamos and so forth, and so to have that kind of direct experience, and you build it up over the years. The more you know, the more you can learn, and that's just been marvelous. So you were saying what I did when I went on after I was I graduated from university, and computers came into being when I was a young man. Of course, when I was born, at least, there was no computers in the world at all, and very few around. But I grew up with computers. When you program them with a wire running from one plug hole to another. My wife and I both learned how to program computers in that way. She's over 90, and she grew up with that. She went on to learn to write code in HTML and so on and so forth.
Really? Wow.
And so very few. And today, she's still very, very active. There's nothing wrong with my wife's mind at all.
Very good.
Her hearing is terrible, but that doesn't exist.
That's going to happen with everyone, I think.
Yeah, but her mind is just fine. And so we have been able to read and write and explore on many things and had opportunities throughout the world. My wife and I have lectured at universities in Germany and in Wales, and the dictator, if you remember the name of Pinochet down in Chile.
Sure.
Well, he appointed his sister as the president of the university down there, and she called the whole university together to hear a presentation from my wife down there. I lectured at the university in China called People's University, or Renmin University in Beijing, China. And so we've just had exposure to much of the world that most people never have, particularly to computers. I taught in computer science and had patents on the concept, the computer architecture concept that was used to develop the first time travel machine.
Yeah, that's
and
another.
Most people don't even know about its existence, but it's the biggest black box program that the government has, and there's a space travel machine is coming on line next year. And and most people have no idea. But it all depends on supercomputers. That's something we didn't have to be able to do this, you see.
I wanted to go back and talk about time travel with you. Once we go back, though, a little bit further into the interview, then we'll go back to that subject. Bruce, earlier we had discussed some things in private. You said you were pretty busy with your family out there, and of course different groups of people coming in and out. And
today we have just been swamped. We had the SOAR races come. That's Southern Ontario amazing race, and I was amazed by them this morning. We went down and started up the generator and got the shelter all lit up, and boy, the team that put that on was really super. And there were 20 pairs of racers. They come in pairs that came, and and they have many stops and places they go. If you've ever watched The Amazing Race, I never have, but I'm told about the format.
Only through commercials.
Say what?
Only through commercials have I ever watched anything about that. But I do have a general. I do have an understanding of some of that program just by watching certain clips on TV. Yeah.
Well, this particular aspect is done for charity, and the people have to raise, I don't know, a minimum of $1,000, I think it is, to participate.
Right.
And so then people contribute to them, and so that they can become a racer, and then they use this money for a children's charity is what it is, a race for.
Okay. Well, that's a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very nice. And Bruce, that brings up another thing for me here that now I'm curious about. In terms of the younger side of the family, the younger generations, what exactly is their perception of what you've created? That they first initially think, "Oh, Grandpa, he's crazy," and what was their first initial reaction?
I don't know what their first is, but their continuing reaction is much that they realize that everybody else they don't subscribe to my ideas. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
And some, I have over 20 descendants, and I have this last week on the 23rd of May, which I call the most important day in history. And it's not because of this event I'm about to mention, but I had my first great-great-grandson was born that date this week. And on the 23rd of May, which is related to the most important day in history, and that relates to Newton and all, and a thing again that I'm hoping that some people will send me an email, bruce@webpal.org, and say that they would like to have a chat with me about this, and I'll take a group of 5, and we'll just have a private conference call and chat about some of these ideas that we're going to be discussing tonight.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And of course, I think it's time now to talk a little bit about the Ark 2. I do want to get into that with you here right now, Bruce. And I'm curious to know yet again, what exactly went through your mind as you created this thing, and what exactly brought this on, Bruce?
Well, the thing that created it for me was that I was there at the birth of the atomic bomb. I remember the first announcement that was made about it, and I was listening to the radio when it was made that the U.S. had dropped a tremendous weapon, secret weapon, upon Japan. And at that time, I was 11 years old, and I rushed down to tell people about it, and they all just said, hush, kid, that they're busy and couldn't be bothered by hearing about a thing that was going to change the world and change their lives, as I wanted to tell people about this amazing thing that happened. But I did live through that, and then after that, the Cuban Missile Crisis. And people of this generation don't understand how imminent we thought nuclear war might be at that time. It's ever more imminent now, the threat, and the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientist has set the what was called the doomsday clock, the closest it's ever been to midnight, and they really should be set much closer than what it is.
No doubt.
It's like we're in seconds now. But I've always thought this, that for the last 50 years or 60 years, I thought, well, it's all going to wrap up in 2 years. And it's always 2 years from that moment. And now I don't think a matter of 2 years, maybe it could be another 2 years, who knows? But it could be another 2 weeks or 2 months today, the way things are.
We're
just on the edge.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Well, maybe that's not the proper word, but it is interesting that history does seem to be repeating itself. If you look at headlines today and from the past, not exactly that different. And that's something I've been saying here on the show quite frequently. And it really does seem like something is brewing, that something is coming. And it's better to be prepared than not to be, Bruce.
Well, and people always ask me what they should do to prepare.
Right.
And I tell them I have three instructions that I want to give them. And the number one is to get out of the cities. Number two is to get out of the cities. Number three is to get out of the cities. And that, if there's nothing more that you can do more important. Of course, we all have gone through the thing. I've gone through all the steps of my thinking, and you asked me what had led me to building the Ark II. And
yeah.
And it was the circumstances, but back in those days, I was an engineer. I was grandfathered as an electrical engineer in the state of Illinois, and so I had a bug out bag and a wife and children, and my wife would be pregnant and trying. I realized we couldn't walk out of the city. There's no way we'd be able to do that. We simply had to move out. And so people have to come to that realization. And they think, I'll just go out and make a preparation for my own family somewhere. And they call it the 3 B's. They'll get their Bible, their bulletin, their beans and hole up somewhere, and that won't work. You have to be in cooperation with other people if you're going to survive, and most people are just not willing to cooperate. And we can't get people to come to the Ark II. Well, we have more people come than most anywhere. We get lots of help. Our facility here gets more help than any group or any facility anywhere, just far more than anybody. But we don't get near enough. And but people have been very generous towards Ark II.
And speaking of which, Bruce, I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I understand that you've also had some pushback as well, not just by some people out there, but by the government in Canada. Can you tell me about some of those dark matters?
Well, I've called our location Waco North as
Waco North.
as a result of it, and we were actually raided more times than Waco.
Wow.
And until they got down to their final battle with greater force, they would come with 40 personnel on their raids on us, 2 command posts, bring K9 units. And come with things I called AK-47s, but I'm told they're a different nomination, and had point them at me, and they came with. I didn't recognize them, as somebody else told me that they were carrying grenade launchers and so forth. But the only thing about it was that. They didn't get the pushback from me that they got down at Waco.
Yeah,
I just welcomed people in, and after a while, I had to fight it in court, mind you.
Right.
And we were in court, I don't know, dozens of times. I suspect over 40 times.
Wow.
And so it cost us an immense amount of money to. In the court, I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting it in the court, and they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting me.
Fighting you, yeah.
And so they finally gave up. I could tell some, the stories of some of the interflights and all about it.
Well, now, by the way, Bruce, just to quickly say, in the chat room, for those that are watching this right now through YouTube, I have an image up of the construction overhead of the 42 school buses that you have there on the shelter, the concrete shelter there.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, this is a local flying farmer took that and brought me a copy of it. It's a nice picture that they take.
It's a great overhead photo.
Plane.
Yeah, it's a great picture there. Very interesting. And how some people out there, before I even did this interview with you, some people out there were wondering how you got these school buses, how you acquired them. That's basically what they wanted to know.
Oh, it was very simple for me. The tow truck drivers knew that I wanted the school buses, and they knew that I'd pay them for them. And so they'd just call up on the phone and say to me, I found another school bus. Do you want it? And I'd say yes. And so they would go buy the bus or whatever they did. They probably paid the people where they got it. I don't know how they bought them, but they kept looking for them. And they would first take the bus to the scrapyard and take out all the windows and all the seats and cut off the engine off the front. This was all good for them because that was a heavy piece of steel for their scrap. They were doing it for scrap. And they'd bring the bus to me on the back wheels, and then they would cut off the back wheels and carry them away. And so all I had to do was say yes, I would take them, and finally there came a day that we said nope, we can't take any more because we didn't have time to frame them up before we poured the concrete, and that was how come where the cutoff was.
Pretty wild.
And that's it. The people ask me why 42, and I tell them, well, if you've read the Hitchhiker, the Universe, you know what the significance of the number 42 is. But it was coincidental, really.
Very, very interesting, of course. And some of the issues that you have been facing, from my understanding, is vandalism. So lots of people have been going in there and destroying a few things, if I remember correctly, through the years.
Yes, and we had great difficulty keeping them out. And I have a lot of stories about that. But they actually came with cutting torches and cut through our steel doors to get inside. And so, yes, we've had battles in that way, and nothing that great. I mean, in total, I've put the figure about $40,000 is what we've lost to theft in that way. Over and when you say it's over 40 years, it's about $1,000 a year or $100 a month. It's not it's not a major issue. Worse than that kind of vandalism was the resistance from the government agencies. That caused us much more trouble. And more than the government agencies, the greatest problem building an underground structure is humidity, and that really is a destroying thing. And where and we have had rat attacks and things like that. And as the book says, store up now your faith, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and and thieves break in, because we certainly experienced all that.
Oh, yes. And by the way, Bruce, are you religious?
I'm extremely religious,
really?
But I'm not a Christian.
But you're not a Christian, okay.
No.
I understand. One of the things I've been talking about a lot lately here, on and off, in terms of religion, I've been asking different people what they think about the Vatican and the Pope and what's been going on in terms of all the bad press that they have been receiving. And of course, also pastors out there who make millions and millions of dollars off of their proverbial flock. And lots of times these discussions, I could feel their words that are coming out. I could really feel that they don't like talking about that at all. They get very uncomfortable here.
Yeah, well, I'm very tolerant of all religions. All the religions are having problems today. They've fallen away from their true spirituality, and we see this particularly in the Islamic faith. And but every religion, every church has just lost the spirit of true religion, to love thine enemies and bless those who persecute you and all that. That's gone by the wayside. The preachings about religion and Christianity is not that. Christian religion, to be a member of a Christian religion, there is one requirement, and if I can go to any Christian church name, and I go to many different ones. I have good friends who is Jehovah's Witness, and I go with him almost every year to the Nissan 15th, which was the holdover from Passover.
Are they allowed in the Ark too, by the way, the Jehovah's Witnesses?
They won't have anything to do with me.
Really?
They barely tolerate as a group my coming to their meetings, but they will let me. They're kind people, and they're good. But excuse me 1 minute.
Oh. Bruce,
okay.
Are you getting sick on me there?
No, I
no.
got this cougher's hack, and from cigarette smoke, but I never smoked. It's my dad did heavily, and I got it as a kid, secondhand smoke.
Oh, they got you
but
there.
It didn't kill me immediately, as you can see. Okay, so anyway, but the Jehovah's Witnesses won't come by. The Mormons won't come by.
The Mormons won't go. Okay.
And talk to me. They sort of put a mark on my door. Don't talk with that guy.
Oh.
But I accept them all. They're generally very good, dedicated people, and but not just they, but any of the churches in town. We don't have it. When I came to this town, this village that we live in, there were 6 churches, and now not one of them. They're all closed, died. The churches are dying everywhere, and so the Catholic Church was here, and it just finally folded up this last year, and we have absolutely zero churches left. But if I go to a larger town where there are churches, and I go to any church, and I say to them, I'm looking for a congregation. I'd like to fellowship and associate with you. And I said, and if I was to say to them, look, I believe in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in Jesus Christ, and I would like to be a member of your church, and I believe in God. Here's these three things: I believe in God, I believe in the Bible, and I believe in Jesus. Could I join your church? They well, hold up a minute. It takes a little bit more than that. And what it really comes down to is not a question of whether you believe in God, believe in Jesus, and believe in the Bible. It comes down to, what do you think of those Jehovah's Witnesses? What do you think of those Mormons? What do you think of those Muslims? Because they all believe in God. They all believe that Jesus was a prophet. They all believe that the Bible brought these teachings of the good news. They all believe that, but they don't want anything to do with those other people. They want to know what you think about the Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, the Christian Scientists, any other religion.
Yeah, isn't that interesting, though? It's a lot like those out there in Hollywood. If you're friends with someone of certain ideology, they will definitely break away from you. They don't want to associate with you. It's very unusual what everyone is going through right now in these times. Everyone's very sensitive. Everyone wants to jump on someone. It's amazing, really.
Yeah, well, all of the religions, it isn't just Christianity, but Islam among the Hindus, among sects of Buddhists today. It isn't a matter of what you believe. It's a matter of who do you hate. And if you don't hate the right people, then you're not. And there's many churches. Boy, you've really got to have a hatred for Muslims, or among many Muslim groups, you got to have a hatred for the Jews or the Christians. It's not, do you love God, and do you love the Scriptures, and do you believe Jesus was the prophet of God? That won't cut it.
Politics is politics
not who
is
you love, it's who you hate.
Exactly, and politics is just like that as well.
Right, and people become at such extremes about all ideas of one side. The other side can't have any good idea. That sounds to me like that's a communist idea. Well, they'll say, but that wasn't the question. Was it a good idea? Or that's something the snowflakes or the socialists would say, and they get very upset about these ideas and that some other group may have, but you still say, well, can't you see their point of view on it? Why they think that they do these things? And so, nope, they can't. People just become separated. This is part of and it's not just in America. It's not just in Europe. It's this way throughout Asia. It's
global.
It's global.
It's global,
especially in India, between them and Pakistan, and nobody has the love of their enemies and the concern of their neighbors, so to speak.
No, some people just don't have compassion for others anymore, even though they preach something else. It's just completely different than what they follow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So anyway, I really, we live in the most important of all times of this planet. This is a gigantic universe.
Yeah.
There are billions of galaxies, and the galaxies each hold billions of suns. And around each sun there are planets. And people wonder if there are any of these other planets occupied. Well, yes, they're all occupied. They've all had people on them. Maybe not in what we consider space-time. You have to understand that this world is illusionary. That's
Bruce, you want to go? Bruce, you want to go
not
there?
A delusion.
Bruce, you want to take the show there? Let's do that. But before we do, I do have another image of you up on YouTube. It's you in front of the Ark 2 in the entrance, and it looks like a very nice photo, actually. Very, very colorful. You're wearing you're wearing black pants. You got your hat on, but you're missing the dog. That's the only thing.
Yeah, our dog's gone.
Oh my God!
Sorry to say, and she passed on.
Oh no, poor dog.
Yeah. Well, she had over 40 pups, and she was. We raised these pups for autistic children, and I say our dog. She wasn't really our dog. Dog belonged to the association until the end, and then we acquired her. But when she retired, but generally when we're training these pups to work with children with autism, only 40% of them will pass. The 70% of hers did, and she was just the top breeder here for that, and so she was a marvel.
Amazing.
And we had a great relationship. It was one of the greatest things we ever did to have that dog, and it brought great joy to our lives. And I have had so many blessings in my life compared to most people. And this last weekend, I just had one of the finest blessings I ever had. And we had a family gathering. And everybody there said, this is the greatest family gathering we've ever had. This was really, really great.
Yeah, it's very nice.
All these children and grandchildren and all here at it. It was just marvelous.
Nice. Yes, I'm glad you had that experience with your family. Always good to have a bunch of people around, especially family, of course. And of course, Bruce, you were talking about UFOs and other things of that nature a moment ago. And I thought, well, let's just switch gears here momentarily. And I also wanted your opinion on UFOs and time travel. And for those that don't know, UFOs have been quite the popular subject on mainstream media. It's been making headlines all over the place. And it's very interesting. And I thought we could talk a little bit about that here, Bruce.
Well, I don't have a lot to contribute to it. I saw lots of them. I sent planes. I was a control tower operator. I sent planes in pursuit of them, you see. And we were at experimental Air Force bases. They weren't our plane. These UFOs were not our aircraft. And they performed far in advance. I saw very, very advanced aircraft of flying wings and gave landing instructions to the first of some things. You know, they were really we had some amazing stuff, but we didn't have anything like the UFOs. And beyond that, I can't tell you anything about them because I personally never met any little green men or such. I've talked with many, many people who were abductees and things like that. And I can tell you that 90% of them are mentally ill. I worked as a psychiatric social worker, and I worked in several mental institutions and talked to hundreds and hundreds of people who, in those days, today we just give them a pill and put them back out on the street. but I met just great numbers of people who are mentally ill.
90% of them are mentally ill, you said.
That's right. And the other 10% of them are maybe not quite that high. Maybe it's 98% are mentally ill, and the other 2% are charlatans. Very, very few charlatans. I've only really met in my life two that I was really convinced that they had considerable followers.
Sorry, I had to play that.
Okay.
Little X-Files there.
We're okay?
Yeah, I was just playing some X-Files theme music there.
I see.
To get us in the mood.
Yeah. Okay. 10 here, I wouldn't recognize it. Okay, so anyway, we did have these people. The one Charlton that I knew, I had dinner with him numbers of times.
Which one?
With a group. And we'd go down and sit in the cafe. And he was, he earned his livelihood. Very, very popular in Japan, and wrote many books on his travels with the extraterrestrials.
Does he have a name?
Huh?
Does he have a name?
I've forgotten it at this moment.
Oh no.
But I won't. And if I did remember it, I wouldn't say it. But I did meet him, and he was only the second in my life I really met who was of that nature. About
Bruce,
that,
Bruce, you're leaving me hanging here. I thought you were going to give me a good laugh.
Give you a what?
A good laugh here.
About what?
About this gentleman here.
Well, he died.
Oh no! Oh my goodness, he died.
Yeah, he's
That's not
dead
good.
now.
Oh, poor guy.
And so we'll speak no more.
Yeah, we won't speak ill of him.
But he was around for a long time.
Did he just die recently?
No, I think about 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little longer.
Different individual then.
Yeah.
From what I was thinking. Okay, wow. Amazing stuff.
But I made an effort to talk, check out all things like Rob Hubbard's Dianetics. I read the book that used the E-meter. I've traveled to and I received the instruction of numbers of Eastern gurus and people like that. I tried to examine everybody's ideas and follow, know what they're talking about. I'm very, very tolerant of
understood
of people's having different ideas.
Yeah,
we have just a great diversity of cultures on this planet that do not understand each other at all.
Oh, I agree with that.
They don't have a clue of what the other people really think.
And by the way, Bruce, I'm sorry to interrupt you yet again. That brings me to another name that I was curious if you had any understanding of or know anything about. That would be Paul Hellyer. He's from out there.
Yes, my great favorite of my wife. She read his books. I had to read it because she read it. But, she loves
him.
Oh, yes, she's very much impressed.
Oh, yeah, he's been on the show.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I like Paul a lot. He's a very nice guy.
Yes. Yeah, he's a nice guy, but his UFO stuff.
You're not buying it.
Well, he's easily convinced. He hasn't had direct experience. He doesn't report. I sat down with these aliens and I was introduced to them, and so it's all secondhand information, and it's good secondhand information. All the government documents he's collected and one thing and another, but he meets with these people and he talks with them for the hours,
Oh yes.
And he says they're very sincere. I'm sure it's the truth that they're telling me. And I find him quite gullible in that regard.
Amazing.
Because I have talked for hours with people in the mental institutions who are extremely convincing, about the things they believe, and he just hadn't had that experience that I had. You see, so he was more easily convinced by these people than I would have been.
Understood. No doubt, no doubt. And it's just the whole UFO topic has been making headlines, and it's always made me wonder who exactly gave the green light, rather, to go out and start getting the media all fired up and start having this sort of story syndicated all over the United States. It always goes back.
Well, now you're going into another area about
the
deep state and the conspiracies to control with fake news, the media, and all these areas, and all those things have a truth to them too. And but the UFO thing is just ancient.
Right.
It extends back in hard evidence for many, many centuries before our century. So it's, but I have no, like I say, personal contact with any of these supposed individuals. I do have personal contact with numbers of individuals who claim that they do have contact with them.
Yeah, there's a few individuals I've talked to over the years, and one of them was a close friend of mine. In his mind, he claims to have been able to summon these UFOs. He calls them, and well, my friend, good buddy of mine, he was not exactly all there at times. I'll just say it nicely. Yeah, no, people. It's the distinction between illusion and delusion. And many people don't understand the difference between the two. But delusion exists simply in people's mind. But illusion is always based on some underlying reality. But the whole of reality is an illusion. And these are the very words of Einstein. I've been meaning the last 2 days to look this up. I've read it from other sources, but I got to go find the original source. And that he has said that that we got to remember this whole world is illusionary, although a very enduring one was his total expression. And but I've got to go look up brainy quotes or something like that and find out where that actually comes from. I have many quotes from Einstein in this book that I'm writing on this subject, really, dealing with Newton's theories and Einstein's theories, and that the whole thing of for Einstein was space-time, the illusion of space-time, and what we call the relativity of it, and that brings us then to these issues of time travel. Which, yes.
And if you're going to deal with UFOs and the great distances that we're talking about.
Bruce, let me just cut you off really quickly. And just to sum it up really fast with the UFO stuff, it always goes, in my mind, personally speaking, Bruce, the question always goes back, it always comes back, rather, to why would they be talking about this so much? Is this some sort of distraction? That's kind of the question that I always have when these sort of headlines make the news, and we're flooded with them all over mainstream media. And
I can assure you that they exist. And that at the time when I was in the control tower, and many of us saw them, and like I say, I sent planes in pursuit of them, and we had special 3D cameras up there to take pictures of them, and so forth, because we were one of the 5 experimental Air Force bases in the United States where the experimental planes were allowed to land. So we were sort of a magnet for this kind of activity, and so they exist. What I'm saying is I just don't know what they are.
Sure.
That's what we mean by UFO. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you that they were beyond our technology, and or we wouldn't have been spending all the time trying to develop the aircraft we were developing that we knew about. And they were, and the Russians and Chinese or nobody else had any better technology than what we did. So it's not. They're I don't know what they are or what, but they do exist. Number one, and number two, the thing I was getting to was when you're going to travel those kind of distances over that kind of time, you have to take a different viewpoint of what space-time is and the relationship for that. and that's where we get into these machines for time travel and all that, and this is and the technology for that, but anyway, that's where that all leads to.
Yes, talk to me about time travel. Have you done this yourself?
Actually, I have. When the first time travel machine was built, it used a technology of a patent that I had developed years before the patent had expired. I mean, it's public domain now, and but it used that concept, and so I was very interested in how this individual had applied it. The first person to develop a actual working time travel machine was in he developed it in his garage, and showed it on the YouTube, on the internet, and gave people the opportunity to use it. And so I took a very insignificant little trip on this time travel machine, and the next day came back for the meeting there to see where all this was going to lead, and he had everything in his garage was now covered with canvas. He says, I was visited by government yesterday, agencies, and they said, this is all classified, I can't tell you anything more about it. And the third day, it was gone, he was gone, and there's never been any mention since, except in the general press, in magazines like Sky and Telescope. I have seen mentions of the new, and people don't understand that it's a time travel machine. They think they're talking about something else.
Well, Bruce, that's kind of wild. How can they just, understand right away? It's pretty wild.
I'm not following your. How can they what?
I'm saying, how can they not have that sort of perception? As soon as you say time travel, people think, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, well, incredible and incomprehensible, you understand.
Exactly, yeah.
Most people do not have any concepts about time travel. I've got a videographer who's planning to come, and he says he will do a series of videos. I've always tried to talk to ones to come to do this on time travel. And I set out the principles of time travel for the 10 principles of time travel, And up until now, and I'm not saying that's going to continue to be the case, because, but up until now, we've only been able to travel backwards in time. We have not been able to travel forwards.
Yes.
And if one travels backwards in time, you can't change anything. All you can do is, that's rule number 2, you cannot change anything in the past. But the reason why we do it is by going into the past, we can change the future. Again, incomprehensible to many people about that.
Sure.
But we can change the future by traveling into the past. But we can't change the past.
And Bruce, will these videos be uploaded to your personal YouTube page? That's something I've been wanting to.
No, somebody else wanting to do it.
Oh no, why not, Bruce?
Huh?
Well, I'm wondering why haven't you uploaded any new content to your YouTube channel there?
No, I just don't have time anymore.
No more time.
I'm working on an idea far beyond again what we can discuss here, and I've been diverted from that for the last 2 weeks in preparation for this amazing race, and for my family coming. My family is here, and when they depart, I have to get back to work on this and all. But I'm working on a subject far beyond, has much more
Oh, I understand that. It's
import
just
to me personally than time
Yeah.
travel. Something I can really contribute to, and
no doubt. I was just referring to the promotional use you can get out of your old YouTube channel, which is still quite active. I just thought if you promoted maybe like a short little trailer.
I don't promote anything.
You don't promote anything?
The only thing I am promoting at the moment is this new concept that you and I developed here, that if people wanted to talk with me about this one idea that's beyond anything we mentioned on the air, that I would take 5 people.
5 people.
And we would have a Zoom conference about this, and just personal, interactive, and chat with them. And they all to participate in that. All they need to do is send me an email. It just said that to Bruce at webpal, WEBPAL, web, like the web.
Yes.
PAL.org. Got to make sure it's .org. And I will email them back, and we'll find 4 persons like that person, and we'll sit down and have a little chat together.
Nice. Very nice. And of course, the website is webpal.org for those that want to go and check out the website, webpal.org.
That's right. And Bruce at webpal.org will bring them right to me.
Yes. And by the way, Bruce, I'm sorry to cut you off one more time here, but now I do have another photograph. It's the photograph you have on your website, the map of the interior of the shelter. It's I have that blown up here on the chat room, and people are taking a look at it. And
okay. Well, if you go to Wikipedia and put in the Wikipedia ice worm or Camp Century, Operation Ice Worm or Camp Century, you will see a very, very similar picture.
Oh, yes.
And you'll see the similarity between Arc 2 and those secret underground bases built by the government.
Yes, and earlier
where I was, I did. They weren't exactly like that when I was there. I went out on the survey lines where they doing the surveys to put in the camps, these secret camps. So I was at the beginning of them, but later on they were there, and then later still they were removed.
And Bruce, just for conversation here, one of the things that people emailed me once I said you were going to be on the program, it goes back to when I mentioned pushback that you've had. I'm curious to know if what people say about you is true, that you're running a cult. And of course, I say that with sarcasm, Bruce.
Oh, yeah, that's always been. But no, we have no. We don't have any of the requirements of a cult. I'm not a charismatic leader in any sense. There's no one who follows me. I don't give any prophecies of any sort. I don't. I have no following in any regards in that way. Anyone wants to come and participate in the Ark, we let them. We make no distinctions as to race, religion, sex, anything else, age. Anyone is welcome to come. I get many, many emails from young people,
yes,
saying they want space for their mother and their father and their brother and sister. Well, of course, it's from them, and they don't have the real support of their parents. Many young people come up with that idea, but for the most part, they're down in the States. We're up in Canada. And I just say to them, I'm very sympathetic, but there's no way that you can get from there to here when the catastrophe happens.
Yeah. I'm sure you get a lot of those people.
Saddens me very much. I get many emails from people in the States who want to come. There's a whole category. I would say 70%, 80% of the people who want to participate who are married. Only one of them is willing to. The other will permit them. And that's on both sides. It's the males, the female just say no, go to work. We have a family. These are crazy ideas. We have family support, and they get very upset about them talking to me. And the females, if they are concerned about this, they said their husbands just write it off as a crazy idea, and they can't take any action without them. And there's many people in that kind of situation. Then I get numbers of emails from people who are dreamers. We want to come, we're going to come, but they can't really do it. They have jobs. They can't quit their jobs and come up here. And if they are in a circumstance where they can, they have to have a way to support themselves. You can't work in Canada unless you have the equivalent of a green card in the U.S., you know.
Yeah, some people think they could just go into another country without any difficulty. It's rather amusing.
Yeah, but today you have to have a passport and arrange and get in. And so most people, it's just a dream. They can't come here. So we're not building any great organization or cult or anything like that.
Correct. Yeah.
We did at one time have our organization spread over that we had a team leader in every state of the United States. But it just got too busy, too involved. I tried to get out my newsletter. I've had editors take over the newsletter, but then they quit. At the moment I don't have an editor, I have to put out the newsletter myself. And I don't get it out even every week anymore. I just got too much going on.
Yeah, you have a lot going on out there. You're doing tours.
I'm just swamped.
You're doing interviews. You're doing all sorts of stuff. And by the way, right now in the chat room on YouTube, I do have a photograph of the woman's facility, the ladies' bathroom, rather.
Oh, yeah. We have separate male and female bathrooms. Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah. Very important.
Yeah. And yes, it's and people look at it, and the shelter. I mean, it's not that rugged, but it's pretty rugged. A fellow was saying to me today, who came, he says, "You got to make this facility much more, attractive." In today's world, people don't want to live in something like that. Well, you are going to live there. It's only for use for about 3 weeks, and then you're out of there, you see. It's a lifeboat. It's not the Queen Mary. But another fellow called me up, in the last 2 months, and he had bought into a shelter out in Kansas, and their range, there's $1.5 million to $5.5 million is the cost for joining one of these tight missile sites. There's only 2 of them that are active that I know of, but there are some others planned. But they're going in and shut the door and have everything they need for 5 years, sort of thing. I mean, not my conception of all this at all. But he said he had bought into that. He'd bought in for the $1.5 million package. But he was over the 400-mile range where they would come and pick somebody up, and he wanted a backup. And so he said, "I'll put a lot of money into yours." And I said, "You take your $1 million and buy a house up here." I said, "It's that you've got to be able to get across the border, be here, but." Who knows ahead of time? He owns many businesses in Ohio, this particular individual.
Yeah, there's some facilities out there, some rather complex underground shelters now by various companies that are very, very lucrative and very expensive.
Well, I don't know if the companies are all that lucrative. They aren't like Apple or Microsoft or anybody like that. No, these guys aren't making a great amount of money.
Not that way. But they have their clients.
Okay, but the shelters themselves that you see on TV with these beautiful rooms and all, 90% of those are Photoshop. They aren't real.
On these television programs.
Yeah, most of them aren't real.
Well, it wouldn't be hard to imagine that some of that is embellished, of course, especially on TV. So,
but there are some out there. I have friends who had bigger shelters than what I have, and they were built by the government, and they bought these, and we've been in connection, and there are very nice shelters out there. Wealthy people have them. The Waltons and they have a gigantic complex down there in Arkansas, with barbed wire all around it and helicopter landing pads inside and all that type of thing, and guards, you name it. But the anybody who the what we talked about, the top 1%, and not all of them, but they're the really wealthy, all have shelters, and they have 14 homes, and they build a new home. And the architect says to them, "Well, anything else that you want?" And they said, "Anything else you can suggest?" And he says, "Well, a lot of the fancy, nice homes like this, you already have a Olympic-sized swimming pool, and you have your tennis courts and all this other, but a lot of them put in a safe room." And they say, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea. Give me 3, one in pink, one in blue, and one in green." And they just have people of this kind of wealth make more money in a day, some of them millions every day, than that they can spend. And they already have their 14 homes, their yacht, and what more can they spend? Some of them buy a ticket on the first flight to Mars, or going around the moon, or wanting to pay $1 million or so for.
That's insane, by the way.
There's people out there with immense wealth.
If I had that kind of money,
most people don't.
If I had that kind of money, I still wouldn't take that trip.
You wouldn't?
Probably not. No, I'm afraid of heights.
Yeah. Well, okay. But anyway, no, I'm beyond trippy like that too.
That's
There's other. But anyway, it was. I lived in the most interesting of all times that we passed through, and I saw technology change and change and change and now it's beyond any concept of what I can comprehend.
It is.
But,
yeah. Technology's just leaped bounds and bounds and bounds. It's just remarkable what people can do now, what different agencies can do now with technology. You can even see through walls with the Wi-Fi.
All of that's there. And we've been able to spot people and track them, and now send drones after them for a long time.
It's insane. Really. And by the way, Bruce, once again, there is another photograph of you here up in the chat I pulled up. It's of you and our lost, our hero, the dog there, you and the generator. Yeah.
Well, our generators have been, we were down there today looking at them and discussing about them, and they're a loss. I'll tell you, I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on those generators, and technology over time has changed. The diesels are perfectly good today, but the mechanic that was looking at them with me says, but they're not efficient by today's standards. We should just abandon them, put in a new diesel, and be cheaper than keep them going. But they will run fine. but they're just not efficient by today's motors and so forth. And but the big killer for us is not the diesel; it's the generator underground there. And I can buy new little generators so cheap today. My word. And what we spent on that. Many paths we've gone down, and then we get there and say, no, not to bother. And but that's life. That's experimentation. I had the largest research vessel in the world at one time, and I own 40% of the company that developed the robotic arm that recovered the space shuttle Challenger.
Oh, yes.
And I've been in a lot of technology. You look back and you say, well, why bother? Look where it's gone, what we did. But it's for us as individuals, we're involved in these things, and it's thrilling. I've lived in the most exciting times of all time.
No doubt, I agree. And by the way, Bruce, speaking about the future, once, I hate to even say this, but once you do pass, you're going to give this facility back to someone in your family, I imagine. And have you let them know what you'd like in terms of how things go with the facility?
Well, it's really, I formed several decades ago, a foundation, a corporation.
Okay.
And it's my main interest in the world is the universal auxiliary language. That's my primary interest. And so I need to be working on that.
Yeah.
But, and I hope that people will continue that on. But in truth, if anything were to happen to me at this time, the plans for it and the board of directors and particularly the secretary of that organization keep saying to me, you don't have a plan for continuity. And that's the same about the shelter. No, if it doesn't happen in my lifetime, it's not going to happen. It'll fade away. And it won't be the first on any of these things. Many things of this sort have come and gone in the world. Yeah, and the whole civilizations, and in fact, that when you look at it from a cosmic point of view, whole planets and even suns come and go.
Come and go. That's why technology will fail. We learn that every single day. So I'm always wondering, when is the next event going to happen? Because it's just a matter of time. Eventually, all of this will go. So I definitely don't want you to feel that you left all your work in the past for nothing. I definitely think this will...
It wasn't for nothing for myself.
This will be something.
It was a grand journey. And for the divine plan, where it fits into that, none of us ever know who's making what significant steps. And historically, we often contribute them to a different person. It's and the great arguments, was it the Wright brothers who first did what they did, and you have to have all these debates back and forth, and we do it in all fields. Was Shakespeare really written by Shakespeare, or was it written by another guy with the same name, or who knows? It's not to worry about these things. The thing is for every individual to do their best and to learn the deepest thing that they can learn. And that's the thing that I try to attract people to. We have these very advanced, an idea that's so advanced we can't discuss it here on the air. And I say to people, write me personally. We'll have a personal chat about these things, 5 people at a time, and examine this. Because Newton was banned for talking about it. His ideas were sealed, and because the people just would not, who took his works, and they were finally sold off at Sotheby's, and a guy by the name of John Maynard Keynes, an economist, bought the manuscripts, and he was not exactly appreciative of them, but he didn't understand them. And but Newton had ideas far beyond what people today can fathom.
Yeah, that's another thing that I always think about as well. People from the ancient past as well, they all had this great knowledge. And just like the name you just mentioned, another extraordinary character, you have to wonder how they even obtained such knowledge in the first place.
Yeah, that's the point. And we're coming to understand more and more about the very nature of thought and language and how it occurs but thinking today has been taken over by a particular group of people.
Right.
And they're on the board of directors of the TED programs. Big scandal. If any people watch TEDx and all that.
Oh, the TED Talk.
Huh?
The TED Talk.
The TED Talks, right?
Okay, sure.
They're highly censored, and these real ideas, they won't let them out on it, and it's called the biggest TED scandal. And many people have become very upset. Not many people, very few people, but the people who understand it are very upset with TED that they censor it. And the same thing happens with things even in, and I love it. I hear people talking against it, but in my mind slipped right here at the moment. Wikipedia.
Yes.
Yeah, they're censored. Even what they write about me is always. I'm not complaining, but they always make sure they get into things that ridicule me.
Yeah, that's another thing that is problematic here in America, and of course, I'm sure you face that in Canada, is censorship. That's another big thing here. I'm totally against it. There's people out there that waste so much money and so much time in their lives to go after people whose ideology differs from theirs. And they want to waste all sorts of resources and waste people's time. The thought police is out and about.
Yeah, well, the people who do that don't understand either. They're just pawns
Exactly.
to others. And in any large organization, and you were speaking earlier of the Catholic Church.
Sure.
It applies equally to any big corporation or any organization, a government in any way. You come up being a pure thinker, thinking the thought line that they present. If you didn't think it and espouse it, if you were strongly anti-communist in one part of the world or strongly communist in another, if you weren't greatly in one organization opposed to the Catholic Church, or greatly in favor of the Catholic Church if you were in it, if you didn't buy the line and were a true believer, you would get promoted up. And this is the way it is in all the corporations. This is the way it is in the higher levels of government of what we call the deep state. And the people who are in those things absolutely believe the things they believe. But their minds are controlled. I mean, they don't realize it. If you didn't believe that and espouse that, you just wouldn't be permitted to go ahead. The people who run these organizations are what we call sociopaths, and they just have a different way of thinking than most people.
Yeah, the marauders out there. That's true.
Yeah, and but if you did not agree with their philosophy, you wouldn't be promoted. So you get up into the banks and all, and you aren't going to find any Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, or anybody up there in the higher ranks. All you're going to find is sociopaths.
Yeah, it's true. That exists in every other field out there as well.
That's true.
Yeah, these phony people.
Not there, only there, but in the universities and in any field today. Somebody who is a strong believing Mormon or or Jehovah's Witness. They discourage their people from
were you going to say,
but,
Bruce, were you going to say Joseph Smith?
what do I think of Joseph Smith?
I thought that's what you were going to say. Oh, I'm just saying, I thought that's what you were going to say, Joseph Smith.
Joseph Smith, well, I used to teach at BYU.
Oh, that's true. You were a professor at different universities, I recall.
Yeah, different ones, but I did my student teaching at BYU.
Oh, that's right.
I very much appreciate and understand and study deeply into Joseph Smith. I used to, at one time in my life, I was the chauffeur and guard for the person who became the prophet of the Mormon Church, and Ezra Taft Benson. It was when he was the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture. And
what's your take on Judaism?
Well, I married a Jewish lady.
You married a Jewish woman?
And my first, as I was talking with my grandson today, as my son's pointed out to me before, my grandson would be classified Jewish enough that if he lived in Germany at the particular time, that he would have been executed or whatever. And but he's that line of descendants, but he's half Chinese. I have 5 Chinese grandchildren.
A little bit of flavor in there, huh?
Huh?
A little bit of flavor in there.
Yeah.
No doubt. Okay.
Well,
no problem.
And I told him he inherited genetically the best of both worlds.
Sure.
The 2 highest intellectual groups in the world are, and not mine. They are the Jewish and the Chinese. And
I agree.
They have that's why and he was explaining to me today, because he speaks perfect Mandarin.
Oh, wow.
And but he was explaining to me today that why the Chinese students do so well in math is because the concept of numbers and the words for numbers are so different in Chinese.
I'm terrible at math, by the way.
Huh?
I'm terrible at math.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have another fellow comes here all the time. He's a math tutor for people who are having to pass university math tests and all. That's what he does.
Oh, yeah.
For these things. And
my goodness.
And but my grandson and I, we take a different approach to math. I'm very much I'm into the theory of math.
I hear you.
Learning the techniques and rules of formulas and that sort of thing, but math and logic are very much related in Mathematica Principia by Russell, of course.
Oh, yes. And Bruce.
We got symbolic logic, and that's what I built this machine to do to do logic, you see. And that was part of the patent thing, and where it went on and so forth.
Yes,
so I'm very much interested in that area.
Yes, sir. And of course, as we kind of wind down slowly here, almost up, or time is almost up here, I did have a few more questions to ask you. We got about 20 minutes left here. But as we slowly wind down here, we were talking a little bit about some of the social issues that we face around the world. And I am curious your opinion on our president here in the United States, Donald Trump. What exactly is your take on our president here in America, Bruce?
There's an old saying, do the times create the man, or does the man create the times? And he's a marvelous example of that. You never saw a president so associated with the times since here I've gotten the wrong name of Roosevelt, but anyway, President Roosevelt during the Depression there, and boy, there was a time that demanded a particular type of person. That particular person shaped the times, and this is certainly true of Trump. Trump is such an amazing individual in my eyes, and at his age and the strength of which he does things. And he has such comprehension of so many things, and he tries to tell people the truth about things, which they aren't willing to hear about the deep state and one thing and another. He's battling a battle that I just beyond my comprehension of how one man can stand up to all that he does. Having said that, you got to understand, of course, he too is a sociopath.
I believe so.
But he's certainly trying to. Many sociopaths have an agenda, and he has no sympathy, to my point of view, of and all the people that he puts into power, and they're sociopaths too. If they aren't, he isn't going to.
I think it takes that sort of characteristic to make it to the top, especially in politics. I think they're all insane. I'm bipartisan, by the way.
Sociopaths aren't insane.
I'm bipartisan, by the way, in terms of politics. I'm not affiliated to any political group, any religious group. I don't subscribe to any of those. I go after everyone, but I could definitely see how these people in these high positions, how a lot of them have that characteristic. They all take on that sort of form. It is interesting.
Yeah, but in addition to SOAR, we had another touring group come today, and
we sort of lost audio there for a moment, but we are back and fine.
Okay, I'm saying in addition to the Amazing Race, we had another touring group come today, and one of them was a deacon of the Orthodox religion, and he brought along a very advanced autistic individual.
Oh, okay.
And it's these are people, the people the person in the world who knows the most facts and can just remember them. They did a movie about him called The Rain Man, really based upon him. And he's autistic. He can master facts. He has no concept of purpose. And this is where we fall out with the sociopaths, is the concept of purpose that they have in the world is completely missing reality.
Yeah, sadly, that's the reality for a lot of these individuals out there. They lack common sense and rationality.
Oh, they have common sense, street sense, and rationality. They're not unreal. Oh no, they follow logic better and to its limits better than I do. And practicality. They build up their Trump towers and they're all billionaires. He doesn't want to hire or appoint anyone to any of the upper offices who hasn't succeeded as a billionaire. That's his standard. So they're rational in their system as to the real purpose of life and all. They don't have a clue.
Yes, and by the way, Bruce, now up in the chat room, I do have a photograph of you next to the dental chair. And
well, somebody today was saying to me, "We got to get that out of there." and haul it out and trash it because it's gotten so rusted.
It's
over
very
time in
rusted.
there.
That's true.
And so they were just talking to me about that. It's a heavy thing to move.
It looks
I said,
heavy.
rather putting your time on that. We have 3 other projects we need to be getting done, and not to. That's not critical one way or the other. But anyway.
Understood. Understood. I was just very curious about that one. The dental chair there. It's almost like a horror movie there.
Yeah, well, we and they were suggesting we get rid of the one. We have 2 X-ray machines. I said, well, don't get rid of one of them. One of them works just fine. Oh, we can get a new model. No, nobody's putting in money like that, and that's my problem. Anybody that has real money who could come and help won't, because they say, no, I'm going to do my own thing, and that's a big mistake on their part, because what they really need is the expertise and the people that they would associate with here to be able to assist one another and so forth. And afterwards, that's where the power comes from, and that would give continuity if somebody came in and was willing to put in the money to find continuity, but nobody's about to do that.
I hear it. And earlier I mentioned the younger generations of the family, and where are they now, by the way? Are you going to see them again this weekend?
Oh, yeah, I have a number coming tomorrow morning for breakfast. I've already started cooking it. That's I have the eggs hard boiled here, and I'm going to make a dish called
very nice
goldenrod eggs in the morning.
Oh, okay, perfect. Once again, I'm glad to hear that everything is smooth sailing out there, and of course we do have about 10 more minutes here, and I just wanted to ask you about the wife. I know she's been writing a book, and I know you were writing a book several years ago.
I have many books. I have a number of books published and a number of books I'm writing at the moment.
I know both of you were currently writing books years and years ago. I believe your wife was writing a book about Revelation.
That's right.
Okay, tell me about
that. And anybody can see it. They go to jesusspeaks.ca and they'll find her book online.
Oh, okay. You can't tell the audience just a little bit about that?
You want me to speak to that for a moment? Well,
yeah, sure, just a tiny bit.
Her book opens Revelation in a very different way than people are familiar with. She has taken every verse of every chapter, listed it down one side of the page, and opposite of it put in an explanation of that verse. And there's a thread through the book of Revelation. But the book of Revelation is a book that's impossible for Christians to understand. But I could tell people a bit about that too if they wanted to know about it. Once again, since we're nearing the end, I just want them to know that they can make this chat with me by going to just say Bruce at webpal.org. Tell me that they want to participate.
That's right. Webpal.org. Go there and you'll find Bruce's email. And of course, you'll find more photographs of the Ark 2 Safe for Everyone, or Safe America for Everyone, rather, which is the largest.
The idea is America has to be safe.
Yes.
Because if it isn't, the world isn't safe. It has to be. Unless everyone is safe, no one is going to be safe in this world today with nuclear weapons.
Oh, yeah. And these troubled times that we're in, we're seeing Russia, we're seeing China, we're seeing Iran. The tension definitely is brewing. So you never really know what's going to pop off, Bruce.
The greatest threat in the world, every president has said for the last several presidents, is what they call the line of control between Pakistan and India. That's where it will probably all erupt.
Amazing. So, Bruce, I do want to thank you tremendously for being a part of the program. I had a great time with you here. Definitely, there's so much more to cover. I know you have other topics of interest that you'd love to get into here tonight, but
Oh,
sure.
the, the world is full of topics, and I'm
Oh,
interested
yeah.
in everything, Michael. We can, uh, uh, you know, I can sit down with anyone and whatever they're interested in. I'm glad to discuss it with them because it's everything is of interest.
Perfect. So definitely, I do want to thank you here for being a part of the program yet again. I had a great time with you, and I know the listeners out there sure enjoyed having you here on board.
Well, thank you for having me, and I was very glad to be able to participate.
No problem, my friend. I'll talk to you on the other side.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye-bye.
good night. And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That was one Bruce Beach. Bruce Beach. You could definitely go to webpal.org. That's his website. The ARC 2 community. That's the ARC 2. Safe America for Everyone. Definitely go check out the website. You could find all the photographs that I was plastering up there. You could find all of those. And yes, the creepy dentist chair. Look at that, folks. He got rid of it. It definitely looks like a prop that you'd see in a horror film. Definitely. It's a very creepy photo, so I'm glad he got rid of that chair. That creepy chair. And I'm surprised nobody called in. I was hoping somebody would call in and ask some questions, but none of you did. How shameful of you out there. Now I feel terrible that none of you wanted to call in and give your opinions here on our guest. How dare you? But I imagine that does happen. And of course, we do have a second guest. I know he's out there somewhere in the ether. That would be Kyle Hester. He is an independent film director. I believe he might have gotten the times mixed up. I'm not quite sure. I am trying to locate the man himself, but he seems to have gone away somewhere. Who knows where he's at? I might have to go look for him. You know how that goes, folks. It might be a few minutes here. It might be a bit of a long break, depending on where our friend went. He's somewhere out there. I'll find him, though, I do promise. And once I bring him in here, we'll have some more fun. And of course, I do thank all of you out there in the chat room for making me laugh throughout the whole night. None of you can actually see me laughing and smiling here. Thanks to the mute button here. The mute button has saved me, or else you'd be hearing me laugh constantly since I've been reading the chat room. Love all of you out there in the chat room. And now it is that time to go on a break. Oh, yes. We are winding down here, folks. Oh, yeah. It's definitely time to go on a little break. And of course, it's a great time to go to the bathroom or go to the kitchen and grab yourself a beer. I think I might grab a beer. To be perfectly honest with you, after that first guest, I think I might need one. I'll be right back. Hang tight, folks. Don't go anywhere. Kyle Hester when we return.
while he's dumb. Break his larynx with your time. It's time to get high. Well, this ain't no goddamn dream. It's exactly what it seems. Wake up today just to lay back down and say, I won't be coming back. Let's call it a heart attack. Give me some of that knack. This is just a final payback. They all flipped on me, took my passions, left me be. When I had a place to sit, goddamn attitude to fit. Talk real smoothly with a spit. Things have changed and I have quit. Got nothing to look forward to but backlash full of lies. You're too late where you're going. This is fate, the whistle's blowing. It's much too late. It's too late. You're much too late. Like a piss hole punk with his nose turned up and a fragrance all your own. Tell me what it's like to be alone. And let's not forget the Scarface break. Cool offers fixed to your face. He dropped out of the subhuman race.
And welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I didn't take too long for you. I do apologize profusely. I do thank the live audience out there for their patience. Thank you kindly. It is now that time to bring in our second guest, Mr. Kyle Hester. Let's bring him in. I know he's patiently waiting now. Mr. Kyle Hester, what's going on?
I am hanging out and happy to be here.
I really am too. I'm hanging way out. I'm drinking a beer, having a great time. I'm excited to talk to you, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on. So this is going to be fun.
It really is going to be fun. And we were talking privately here, and you gave me the bad news that you can no longer have some fun yourself there. What happened?
Yeah, you know what? So the to cut to the chase, it's celiac ended up happening. But this was about 8 years ago or something like that. This was at a 4th of July party, and I had always kind of had issues. I was like tired all the time and didn't know what was going on. And at this 4th of July party, and there was just cake and lots of beer all day long.
Nice.
And it was wonderful. I had a great time until I felt like I was going to die.
Oh.
And then it was, so basically I'm like, what's going on? I'm laying on the floor. My left side hurts. And it's like, all right, I'm talking to my wife. It's like, okay, if it gets any worse, we'll go to the hospital, you know?
Sure, yeah.
And she's like, okay, just stay there. And I was like, all right, I'm fine. I'm not dying. And so anyway, didn't go to the hospital. But basically ended up finding out, like, from a doctor that I was gluten intolerant, which hence is celiac disease.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
no.
And it kind of builds up over your lifetime, so you don't know until finally your body just can't deal with it anymore.
Until it's almost over.
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
How lovely.
Yeah. So that's been a big challenge. So yeah, beer's out, bread's out, pasta, you know, all that stuff. So, but I do get to eat really healthy. Like, I live on a farm, so, you know, meat, vegetables, and fruit and all that kind of stuff. So I can deal with it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's ways around that, no doubt. And I'm sure that's what you're doing tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's actually, I have my cocktail of the evening is vodka with a sparkling water and apple juice and a little pineapple. So I do get to have some fun as well. But the funny thing is, like, most vodkas are also made from wheat. So you have to have the one that I the drink is from Poland. It's a potato vodka. So I can have that, or there's like a Ciroc, which is actually more expensive, and that's a grape vodka.
I'm sure this is actually useful for a lot of the listeners out there, because I'm sure lots of them actually have probably something like that, some sort of condition like that, where they would have to drink an alternative. So you're dropping some info here. Thank you.
Right on. Yeah. So if you are, if you had these issues, you can have rum, tequila. So those are good because rum is made just from sugar cane, and tequila is agave, the cactus. So none of those things are wheat. So go for it.
Amazing. And of course, Kyle, as we get into things here tonight, I did want to first talk about your background here a bit as we begin. And from my understanding, you're not exactly, excuse me, you're not exactly from my own backyard, but that's exactly where you live today in California.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like right in the middle of Hollywood, pretty much. So, I mean, I'm not like living in a movie theater.
Sure.
But yeah, I live a little bungalow. I'm really lucky. It's like a 1-bedroom 1920s bungalows, like back in the day in the 30s and 40s. This is where they would put up all the studio people. They would come into like Universal and the big major studios, so they would like house their movie people in these places. So I enjoy that little bit of history, knowing that it's like, I wonder who stayed here. You know what I mean?
Cool.
Like, am I staying in somebody's house that was like famous back in the day?
Sure.
So it's kind of cool.
It really is. And of course, I was looking at your bio here as I stalked you for tonight, as I do
Sweet.
every guest. Yeah, you have to be a bit of a stalker. You're kind of like an ex-boyfriend and ex-girlfriend almost. Yeah, I mean, you really do. You have to get kind of creepy and just like a past relationship, you have to go through the person's social media. That's kind of what you do here when you prepare for a guest.
Yeah, I completely understand.
Yes, how creepy is that? And of course, I'm seeing that you were born in New Orleans.
Yeah, I was born in New Orleans, and moved when I was like 7. So, and then, gosh, I lived from many places from that point, and I lived in Beaumont, and then we lived in Puerto Rico for a little while. My mom got remarried, and then ended up in the 4th grade living in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
For all the way through high school in Houston.
Right on. And then, of course, maybe I should backtrack and ask how exactly you caught the bug for the entertainment business or show business.
Right on. So yeah, actually, let me back up. If people don't know who I am, I'm an actor and a producer, and New Orleans. Went to Performing Arts High School in Houston, and I got the bug. Actually, I was in the 7th grade, and I was watching Fame on TV. The TV show Fame.
Really, that show?
Yeah. So I was watching Fame, and there's this guy Leroy, and he's dancing and spinning and jumping over people and whatnot, and
yes,
and just having a great time, and they're dancing on lunch tables, on the show. And I'm like, is this for real? Like, is there a place like that? I have to go to a school like this. So I found out that there was a Performing Arts High School in Houston, and I auditioned for it and got in, and yes, I did dance on the lunch table and got in trouble for it, but I did it. So
amazing. You were dancing up there like a male stripper.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if I knew much about how to do male stripping at that time, but I was dancing to probably Prince at the time.
Oh, not bad.
Probably
that's okay.
Similar.
No, well, at least you had that sort of that confidence.
That je ne sais quoi.
There you go, exactly. And of course, we were talking about California and you being in my own backyard. A few days back, I even had asked you about the Hollywood Boulevard, a place where I haven't been back in many, many moons. And I'm glad to know it's still as wild and crazy as I left it.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's like it's probably more expensive to live there because everything's going up around here. It's crazy. I'm fortunately in rent control, but yeah, people like that live right next to me are basically paying twice as much as I am, because everything's gone up so much. But it's so yeah. I feel like I'm like low profile. I'm like, yeah, that's right. I live around here.
It's a cool spot, though. I have to admit, just being around there, it definitely brings a different kind of energy for those out there listening that are, in the East Coast. You're kind of way out there. There's definitely a different sort of vibe being out there, out here in California. I think you know what I'm talking about, Kyle.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, everyone's trying to make an impression,
I was going to
So
call
I
you
think
Mr. I was going to call you Mr. Hester.
You can call me Kyle. I mean, we're on first name basis here.
Very
So,
nice. Yeah, perfect. I hesitated there. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I was trying to be
man.
proper.
All good.
So yeah, very, very nutty down there. If you wanted an adventure, ladies and gentlemen, just go down to the Hollywood Boulevard on Friday or Saturday night at about 11:30 p.m. and you're bound to find some entertainment.
Yeah. There's all kinds of there's clubs and bars.
Some
and
fights
all kinds-
outside, everything.
Well, I haven't really seen much of that, but that's probably because I don't really do a whole lot of going on Hollywood Boulevard late at night, so I could be missing the show.
I saw someone get beat up there.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well, that was about 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well,
That
they
happens.
probably had it coming. That's all I'm
Most
saying.
likely, yeah. There's a lot of trolls out there. There really is. So, Kyle, you were basically interested at an early age in terms of acting and maybe even directing. Perhaps that came later on. A lot of people grow up wanting to be actors and trying to achieve their goals and dreams, and even on a small scale that you've been able to accomplish. Some people will say that's debatable. Maybe he's a lot bigger than that. He's going to be a bit more humble about it. But, you have accomplished a lot, even though, you're not, and no offense, but you're not like on a blockbuster film or anything of that nature, but you have been able to get yourself out there and become a bit of a name slightly here and there. You've come out in films, you've done some projects of your own. And I'm just curious how that led you to the film with Rowdy Roddy Piper, who I like a lot. And that's kind of how the first time I really did hear about you, because of that film, The Chair.
That's a funny story. Maybe not funny, haha, funny, but funny, interesting, funny.
Yeah.
So, I was doing all kinds of classes and whatnot, and just kind of the grind that you have to do when you're in Hollywood. It's you have to network, so you have to always be in a class, meeting people, going to shows, all this kind of stuff. And so there was this an actor, Ezra Buzzington, who I had met at a place called We Make Movies here in Los Angeles, which is where people get together and put up scripts and do readings and whatnot, and some screenwriters will get feedback on their scripts and that kind of thing. So I'd met Ezra there, and then he had been cast in The Chair, and this was way before it had even started collecting money for it. And so I just saw this image on Ezra's Facebook page, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's freaking awesome, man! How can I audition for this?" And he put me in touch with Peter Simeti, and so I sent Peter my reel and information and whatnot. And he's like, "Yeah, you get a good recommendation from Ezra, and I see your IMDb, so Ezra, you probably are pretty good, just from looking at what I see." I'm like, "All right, well, I'll take that as a vote of confidence then, and thanks for having me on." So
Yes.
so
Wow.
I go on so the part of Bowen at the time, it was just in the script, it was just another security guard. He had 0 lines. So I was like, and Peter was like, yeah, you can improvise. We'll get you some lines in there somewhere. And I was like,
Nice.
right, okay,
Okay.
cool. So I'm like, I'm just gonna go do this. And a friend of mine that I had known from many years ago, Noah Hathaway, from Neverending Story, he was in it as well. So I was like, I called up, Noah, we're gonna get a chance to work together, man. After all these years, he's like, fuck yeah, that's awesome, man.
Sure. Yeah.
So not knowing that, like, basically I had 0 lines, and so
You're
during
just an
the
extra.
process, well, it might as well have been,
Sure. Yes.
So, but over the period of time, the script was rewritten and whatnot. So then I ended up like having the dialogue that you will see in the film, which is pretty much. But what happened? So I get this film, The Chair, with it's got like you said, Roddy Piper.
That's crazy.
And,
yeah.
Zach Galligan was in it.
Yeah, Zach Galligan. That's right.
Yeah, he was in Gremlins, the guy from Gremlins. Naomi Grossman was also in it. She is from American Horror Story. She played Pepper, the little creature.
Zach Galligan, by the way, he follows me on Twitter. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, right on.
He's responsible for part of my childhood. I love the film Gremlins.
He's a cool cat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He seems like a great guy.
He is. So it's like, so basically from that point, it's like as an actor, and then I started to talk to Peter Samedi, who is the creator of The Chair.
Nice.
And he was asking me questions, about what to do. Who do you know? What can you do? Yada yada. And he had been interviewing producers, and I'm using air quotes, like A-type personality.
Word.
People were like, I'm gonna recast it, and we're gonna do this and this and this, and you're gonna pay me this much money. And he's like, whoa. It's like, it's already cast. This is my film. So basically there was power struggle from the people that he was interviewing, and he was like, I'm not doing that. So then he asked me, he said, well, since you seem to know these people and what you're doing, do you want to produce it? So
it's a good opportunity.
So I went from an actor to producing it. So
that tends to happen. That really does happen a lot.
It was crazy. It was crazy. But I mean, I guess if you've been around a film set long enough, you kind of get to know the ropes, and you know how to make a film. And ultimately, that's what a producer does, is like, you have to know kind of everything. But that was my first producing and acting experience, and it was good. So if you have not seen The Chair with Roddy Piper, it's like streaming everywhere, so check it out.
Yeah, it's been all over the place for a while now. It was plastered all over the media for a short time thanks to the WWE. So it definitely got some advertisement rather. And it's pretty wild that you were able to work alongside with him. Did you have any interactions with the man?
Oh yeah, I saw him every day. I mean, he was the nicest guy. I mean, I only have good things to say about him. He was just a very, very kind person. Treated everyone like you would want to be treated. Like he's your friend and you're talking to him, and he's genuinely interested in what you're saying.
Most Canadians are like that, I learned.
Yeah, well,
nice people.
He followed suit.
Yeah, they're always very kind people. The Canadians out there always have been very nice when I've talked to them. So I can imagine that he was a great guy. Did you get a drink with him?
I did not.
Oh,
but,
terrible.
That would be, if I had a regret, that would be it. I would have
loved to. But yeah, that's a great opportunity that you do have on your resume. Not a lot of people can say that. Legendary guy there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm grateful, for sure.
Very cool. And of course, you do have that other film out there, Zombie with a Shotgun. Interesting. I do love that. Tell me about that.
Zombie with a Shotgun, that was something that Hilton Ruiz, that's his project that he had been working on for a while. I think it's got a comic book. the graphic novel, and he had been following me, and we'd been following each other, and I forget who called who, but it was like, hey man, what are you doing? And he said, yeah, I eventually want to make Zombie with a Shotgun into a film. And I was like, well, why don't we just do it? And he's like, all right. So then we ended up
Just doing it, yeah.
Doing the crowdfunding and doing that. And I played a bounty hunter, Hank Ray, in that. So that was a lot of fun. That was in New York. God, it was shot in a basement like for 3 days. For 3 days in a row, it was like 100 degrees in the basement. I almost got heat stroke. It was
oh my
nuts.
God.
But the things we do. You
can't come out here to El Centro, where it's 90 plus all the time. You die out here.
I can deal pretty much with heat, but it was certainly taxing.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer having to work outside in those kind of conditions anytime. But yeah,
no doubt.
For sure. And of course, this is, I do want to ask you this question. I was going to save this for later, but I'm curious to get your opinion on this. And this is one of the things that has been echoed by myself and other listeners out there. And tell me if this is fair or not, rather. It almost appears that Hollywood has ran out of ideas at times. And I'm talking about the very big budget films out there. In terms of original ideas, it almost doesn't seem to be too prominent nowadays. Just the old rehashed formula. It seems like that's kind of the way it goes now.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? The funny thing is that's actually one of the kind of phrases that I use for the films that I do is like no redos, rehashes, remakes.
So you do agree with me? Okay.
Yeah, so it's all original stuff, and I think that the reasoning for that is money, because if you're going to put multi-millions of dollars into one thing,
one project,
one movie, then it's got to reach mass appeal. So it's like, so how do you do that? Then you do, what do most people want to see? And so most people want to see, Rambo. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember Rambo. I'll go see Rambo because that's got Stallone in it, and that's awesome, and he's going to shoot people. So we need to go see it. You know what I mean?
Sure, it's nostalgic. It's nostalgic. That's true.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I'll go see it. I mean, that was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think that ultimately it just becomes about, the demographics of how many people are going to like this movie. So the narrower it gets, the more risky it is to make a film.
Right.
So it's like, Thelma and Louise, wasn't made for a ton of money, but it made a bunch of money because it like caught fire, So something like that, that's a risky film. It's just a story about these two women, going across the country. And okay, how do you sell that? And all of a sudden, Brad Pitt catches fire and, and you have this big hit called Thelma and Louise. But I mean, those are rare. So
it is rare. And I'm glad you sent that, because another side of the coin is you don't necessarily need a big budget to create one of these big mainstream movies. Just look at a good example would be, let's say, what's it called? Paranormal Activity, that horror film. It seemed,
right.
Yeah, we'll get into that as we continue. I did have some questions about that sort of genre, the found footage genre, but that's a great example of a film that didn't require a big budget. It just sort of generated one all of a sudden, right, Kyle?
That's true.
Amazing, right?
It's like once you can hook on. What was the other film that was the found footage, the one that set all that off in the forest?
The Blair Witch Project, that would be.
Blair Witch Project. I hated that movie.
It caused me a bit of a headache in theaters.
It did, yeah, me too. But I mean, I think it was such a thing at the time. It had never been done, and oh my God, is it real? You have all of that, but you really can't duplicate that anymore. The is it real thing, it's like that because none of it's real. So unless it's a documentary, then it's real.
The internet also helped that film, by the way, Kyle. If you were online during those times in the late 90s, you would recall there was plenty of websites out there that were really promoting the film quite well. And I think that really helped in terms of promotion and getting people thinking that this was a real film. Amazing times.
Absolutely. It's like basically with social media now, that is the key to, if you're an independent film maker or if you want to do it, it's like social media is the key to it now, unless you have millions of dollars to pay for advertising.
Right. And of course, someone in the chat room by the name of Gang of Four. Did I lose you, Kyle?
You did, but we are here now, so we can just pretend like that never happened.
Yeah, like that never happened. Yeah.
So you were just saying that someone in the chat room, Gang of Four.
They asked about Sharon Stone.
Yes.
Yeah, they wanted to know what was like working with her.
She was really nice. She at that point she had just come off of Basic Instinct, so she was like, all the rage. In Last Dance, which is the project that I worked on with her, was supposed to be like her Academy Award shot. So basically that was the thing that they were kind of hoping would happen with Last Dance, but it was the same year of Dead Man Walking. But back to, was Sharon Stone nice? Yes, she was awesome and totally professional, and she was not a diva, and she was just a really professional, sweet lady. So I have nothing but good things to say about her.
Ah, okay. Well, that's a good thing to hear.
Yeah.
Some actors, they have that sort of thing in their contracts about staff looking at them directly in the eye. You know how that goes.
Oh, God, no,
Lord.
That was not her. I mean, I've heard of that. But no, it wasn't her that did that. But yeah, you know what? May I speak freely here? Can we use
ahead,
curse
Kyle.
words on your show?
You could say what you want here. It's totally cool. I'll edit it out. The curse words, if it's too much for some.
All right. Well, I'll be nice.
Well, you could say what you want. It's cool.
Okay. Basically, anybody that's like that is like that has that much of a personality issue within themselves that they won't let people look at them in the eye, they can go fuck themselves.
No, I agree with you on that.
There you go. And you can bleep that out.
Oh, you get a lot of that at times, though.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, you know what? I don't know, man. I mean, I personally, like, I wouldn't hire anybody like that.
How do you get to that level, though? That's what I'm amazed with.
I don't. What the problem becomes?
It's like, what happened to you for you to get to that sort of level there?
Because nobody said no.
That's what it was.
That's the thing. It's like when you have a lot of people not saying no to you, and then all of a sudden you're making more and more money with nobody saying no, then your ego starts to be a runaway train. And then you're asking for only green M&Ms, in your trailer and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's all psychology. So it's like, if anyone ever has any bit of success, just hold on to yourself, because if you don't, then you become an asshole.
Yeah, well, that's another thing about Hollywood, too. A lot of people out there are afraid to mention names, to say anything, because they always have to be nice. You have to protect your gig, basically. You have to be a phoney at times.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at the Trump administration. Everybody does this for him. They get on TV and lie every single day, about like his behavior, So it's the same thing. It's like you surround yourself with people who are yes people, and don't call you out on your stuff. Or if you do call you out, you get
in trouble.
fired.
Yeah, you get in trouble.
or you can't work with them. So it's the same thing.
It just sucks that a lot of people out there have to walk on thin ice, as the saying goes.
It is, and it's like politics with anything in any big business. It's like biting the hand that feeds you kind of thing. And I've never been one to give that too much importance. I've let go of agents, because of like shit that they were saying on social media.
Sure.
But that's just me. It's like, if you either stand for whatever you stand for, or you don't, and then you become one of the people who becomes subservient to everybody.
It's just terrible. It's just terrible, though, Kyle, that you are under scrutiny. If you are on some sort of political side and the other side doesn't exactly agree with your personal views, and they view that on social media, well, you're not getting that gig.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah, it does. It does suck.
Wow,
it does suck. It's
amazing.
a shitty situation to be in. And the thing is like, I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, I'm I know you do, but if if anyone else listening does, you can see from my page, like, what I think.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. But I am also respectful to anyone who wants to hold a conversation. So I think that's where things get lost, is when you can't talk to people anymore, about what it is that you think, and the thing with social media, it becomes like the keyboard bravery and, all that stuff that you wouldn't say to somebody if you were sitting with them, and then people feel like they can say really nasty, rude things to people.
Oh yeah.
That they wouldn't say if they were sitting across the table having a cup of coffee.
Of course. Yeah. That's the power of the internet.
Yeah.
You get all kinds of heathens out there. You really do.
Yeah.
But yeah, a good example of people walking on thin ice, or anything like any sort of politics in show business. A good example would be even in comedy. There's a comedian by the name of Chad Zumach out there. He got basically 86th from a lot of his gigs for saying that Patton Oswalt killed his wife, allegedly, on social media. Well, he said some other things, but he's a comedian, he was just sort of taking shots at Patton Oswalt, but he sort of lost all sorts of stand-up gigs and basically kicked out of a podcast that he does. So, I mean, lots of people in show business, you piss off the wrong guy and you're basically 86 from all sorts of places, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay. I'm not sure exactly what. I vaguely remember the story that you're talking about. Did Patton Oswalt kill his wife?
Kill his wife, yeah.
He did?
Well, I'm not
asking you a question.
Well, I'm not sure if he did or not, but there's speculations that he might have. I don't know. She died of mysterious causes. There was all sorts of drugs in her system, and some people think that Patton Oswalt is responsible somehow. I don't know. I'm just going off on pure speculation here. Don't want a lawsuit on our hands here, Kyle.
No kidding. Well, I mean, look,
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think that this is an extreme example, that you're using. But I think that with that kind of stuff, you have to be careful what you say.
You really do.
Because it's like,
you really
don't know.
Right.
If you're just speculating, and you accuse someone of doing something like that.
But here's the
legal trouble.
Here's the crazy part, though, Kyle. Now Patton Oswalt checks Chad Zumach's Instagram stories and all that, so he knows that he's actually looking at that stuff. And Patton Oswalt has millions and millions of followers on social media, and Chad Zumach, he's not like a headline actor or anything. No disrespect to Chad Zumach, but he's not a headliner, and he doesn't have all these millions of followers on social media. And if Chad ever listens to this, I no disrespect to you, but he knows this too. He's not on that level of Patton Oswalt, who has all that support.
Right. Well, that's,
Kind of unfair.
I don't know. I mean,
It's a complex situation.
Funny cards. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, how do you get millions of followers versus like you don't have it? And then so it's kind of like the cards that you're dealt, you have to deal with them, so
True.
I think that even on an even playing field, with something like that, you need to be careful with what you say. You can't accuse someone of basically murder.
Well, that's true.
If you don't know that they did it. So basically,
he was making a joke though. He was making a joke. That's the whole issue.
He was making a joke?
Yeah, he told his he told his current wife, sleep with one eye open. It's a pretty terrible joke, I know, but
all right,
it's just a joke though. Come on.
Okay, I understand. So yeah, that's a bad take.
That's pretty bad. It is kind of shitty, I admit.
All right. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Context and comedy,
Good Lord.
It's the Wild West, so what do you do? So now he's in trouble for.
He's in deep trouble.
He's in deep trouble.
I think so. Yeah.
That sucks. You got to be careful what you say, man. I mean, I don't know. Pick things that maybe don't have to do with like actual murder.
There's just some people out there that you can't really say anything too much about, or your gig is basically taken away. That's what I want people to understand.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, basically, I think Scientology has that down pat. You talk about somebody, if you're a Scientologist and you talk about somebody in the church, that is a Scientologist, and you badmouth them, then, you're never going to work on such and such TV show where such and such person works or whatever, So, yeah, it's messed up. It is.
That's show business, though, right?
Well, that's all business, really. I mean, I think that like any culture breeds upon itself. So, it's like you don't see, Google people trashing Google.
That's true. Good point.
So, yeah. But the thing is like it's easy to pick on Hollywood,
true.
And show business because it has as much press as it does because it has the eyeballs.
It's an easy target.
Culture, whether in any petri dish, the same culture and humanity is going to be the same because people, are either good people or they're shitty, and they're going to be subservient or they're going to stand on their own, and be able to take the consequences for having an opinion, which I do. So,
yeah, and I appreciate that about you, Kyle, that you're outspoken.
Oh, right on. Well, I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, man, it's been fun so far. I'm enjoying the conversation, and of course, this reminds me of another thing. Since we're talking about the sort of dark side of Hollywood here, what's exactly your take on Harvey Weinstein? If it's going to get you in trouble, don't tell me.
I don't know Harvey. I mean, I've never worked with him. I think that what he's accused of is really, really fucking shitty, and I think if he's guilty of these things, he needs to go to jail.
But would you agree that some of the women that did do a few things with him, do you agree that some of them were totally willing to do that in order to get ahead in their careers?
All right, here's the thing.
Go ahead, Kyle.
People. Can you hear me? Did I lose you?
No, I'm here, Kyle. I'm listening.
Okay. People, and this is human nature, will be willing to do things that they think is going to be better for them. So it's like whatever your particular moral framework is your business.
Right.
So whether someone willingly did anything with him or not does not mean that what he did to other women that did not go into a willing situation is not wrong. It does not mean that he's a piece of shit.
True.
Just because other people did choose to willingly go and do things to further their career. And it happens all the time in every business.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I'm with you. I think he is a terrible human, but I do think some of the women that did go with some of the things that he wanted, I'm sure some of them for sure were willing and ready to do what he wanted. But of course, I'm sure there are other women.
Hey, you know what? You know what?
Go ahead, Kyle.
Lots of people have done that.
I don't.
Lots
I don't disagree.
Have made like the casting couch in
Oh, yeah.
Hollywood
Oh, yeah.
was a thing.
No
You
doubt.
know, so it's like it's not so much in the like now. I mean, well, what am I talking about? It might be.
I'm sure it
you know.
is. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, so it's like if people decide to do something like that, like this is what I am going to do. I am going to sleep my way to the top, you know, and that is a choice that I want to make for myself
That you
because
made.
I know that in the end it's going to like equal this and that, you know, whatever. Then that becomes your own choice to make, you know. So do I think that some women did that? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Do I think that
Right.
do I think that they're bad people for doing that? No, I don't. You know, because it's like the only person that you wake up with in the morning is yourself in the mirror. So if you're okay and you're not hurting anybody else, then you are the only person that you can answer to when you're brushing your teeth in the morning.
I'm with you on that. Sometimes I think for sure, you know, we can both agree that I could see that Harvey Weinstein for sure is a scumbag, no doubt. And I'm sure some of those women were, like I said, ready and willing. But of course, there are other women out there who definitely got taken advantage of, no doubt. We can both agree with that, I'm sure, right?
Sure. Definitely.
That's why another thing I say here on the program, in terms of the whole Me Too movement on social media, I think it started off on a really good principle and good thought, a good idea, but it turned into something completely just, it sort of just didn't go the right way, in my opinion. In terms of some women most likely embellishing a lot of what they were saying, it seems like a lot of women were just jumping on the bandwagon to get the whole response and reaction that they wanted. The whole "woe is me" sort of attitude. Kyle, would you agree with that, or do you disagree? Which is completely fine.
I completely disagree.
Okay, go ahead,
I think
Kyle.
that I don't think that any woman would put herself out publicly on Twitter or Facebook or television about a personal private experience that happened to them where they were victimized. So I don't think that anyone would willingly do that. So that is that there are plenty of things to like, you know, bandwagon on and say,
Sure.
oh yeah, I did that too, you know, or whatever. But I think the Me Too is not one of them.
You think that's more of like a legit sort of movement? None of the women on there.
I don't know that it's
Mhm.
a if movement is the word I would use. I think it's something that like that, you know, men are assholes, man.
Oh,
You
well, I
know,
can
and
agree with that.
will
Sure.
take advantage of women and you know, be inappropriate, and
Some
because
men
of the
do.
culture that absolutely, because
Yeah.
of the, you know, the culture that they were raised in, you know. And I think that that women wanted somewhere to feel validated, you know, like fuck yeah, me too, that happened to me too, I'm with you, sister. So it's like
I'm telling you, some women, I'm sure a
I
lot of
feel all the
them,
women right now high-fiving.
I'm sure some women, they'll embellish some of those things. Not all of them, but I'm sure there's a small percentage that did.
You know, look, that number is probably
Low, though.
0.001%, man. You know, because I think like to bandwagon on that, it's not something that you would do without having some issues about those
Well, Kyle,
things to start with.
some of these girls, I could definitely understand that are were not exactly all there. There was another woman. This isn't every case. This isn't. This is just one case. It's not applying to everybody. But I recall a pro wrestler, in particularly, a very famous pro wrestler at one time who's not in the business anymore. He was actually hit with the whole Me Too movement, and that woman basically lied about a lot of the things that happened. And I'm not saying it happens to everyone, I'm just saying, I'm sure there's a few cases, a very small number, like you just said, that applies to that sort of thing there.
Well, I mean, like
Needle
I
in a
said,
haystack, in other words,
you know,
Kyle.
it's like, what's that?
I said a needle in a haystack.
Pretty much. You know, I think that wherever, like, human nature is, wherever I can get an opportunity to better my situation. So if that's the baseline of a human experience, and the only way that someone sees that they can better their situation is by seeing a rich person and trying to sue them, or
pretty dark.
take advantage of the situation, then that is an opportunity. So there is a percentage of people that will take that opportunity, which is why people end up with stalkers, and all this kind of stuff. It's like, what's going to make me elevated in either my place in the world, or with money, or with whatever. So yeah, man, we're talking like, there's a world full of people, so there's going to be a story for every situation.
True.
So she,
you.
for that particular person, if she was lying about that, then that's a pretty horrible thing to do to somebody.
It is. It's pretty dark stuff. But we know those sort of people exist out there in this world. There's some crazy people out there,
takes
Kyle.
all types, man. Absolutely.
There's some crazy people out there. Too damn crazy. So, Kyle, that brings me back to the whole found footage genre. I wanted to reharp some of what we were just saying in terms of how you don't exactly need a big budget to create a mainstream blockbuster film like Paranormal Activity.
Right.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah. See, what happened with Paranormal Activity is they basically got a major distributor to put that out. I think it was it Spielberg?
Someone jumped on the bandwagon, yeah.
Someone jumped on the bandwagon. So what they did was they put out, like, a high quality production at a low cost, and then they had a studio that had $25 million in print and advertising to put it into the world, and then everybody could see it. So that is what happens. So it's like, so yes, you can make a high quality product, but then how do you get it in front of people? And that's where, having those big studios behind something, comes into play, because they can put it in front of everybody and have billboards and commercials. And it's like, like, how many people listening to this show had ever heard of The Chair, with Roddy Piper? I bet you that probably a few.
There's a few,
but probably a lot hadn't.
A lot have, yeah, true.
So and that's why, is because of the advertising. It's like, I have like 140,000 followers on Twitter. Probably 30,000 of them are bots, and don't even use Twitter anymore. And like a certain percentage of them, only check like once a year.
Sure.
So it's like, so you never really know what's going on. But I mean, just do the best you can with what you have. So the films that I have, it's like, I definitely depend upon, people that are on my, social media feeds and Twitter to be active and retweet and all that kind of stuff, because it all helps the little guy like myself.
For sure. And that leads me to your most recent film, The Preacher 6. The writer was Tracy Ray, if I recall.
Yes. Tracy Ray is my wife.
Oh, tell me about that. The wife, okay. Tell me about your wife a little bit here. Where'd you meet her?
Actually, I met her. I was working at a coffee shop.
Oh, nice.
And
okay.
Here in LA, this was a long time ago. I had like moved away, went to Georgia and New York and stuff like that. And so, but yeah, we met a million years ago at a coffee shop. And then when I ended up moving back to LA, I hunted her down, and like, this was back in the day when there was like, you had landlines, and you would like, you'd block your number.
Oh,
so
nice.
People couldn't find you.
Okay.
And
yes.
So So I had done this search for her, got her phone number, and her number was supposed to be blocked that day because she had someone that was like bothering her.
Oh
So she
no.
did the unlisted number thing, but it hadn't gone through before I had the opportunity to call. So I like to call that universal intervention.
I hear you, but you know, the whole stalking thing, that kind of reminds me of just how far we've come in so short of a time in terms of stalking. Now you have social media. Now you could really hone in on someone, especially with the whole GPS in our cell phones. It's basically a tracking system.
Yeah,
How different it is, and how far we've come from the AOL days.
yeah, no kidding.
That dial up.
Dial up.
Good lord,
Yeah.
AOL. And AIM chat rooms. I'm sure you remember all those.
I do. I don't think I ever went on the AIM chat. I remember the Yahoo chat rooms.
Well, it was the same thing. It's a part of the
Same thing.
yeah. A lot of trolling went on in those days, no doubt. That's when the
Yeah.
internet. That's when the internet was in its wild west days. We are so far removed from
Story.
that. Can you believe that? How far the internet has come in such a short time? We have lost the whole sort of pirate days of the internet. Long gone from the 90s, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. And who knows where it goes from here? You know.
Oh yeah.
So, like, hold on.
Yeah, it reminded just right now as we're talking about the internet, it reminded me of the film You've Got Mail.
I've not seen that.
You've never seen that? That's a classic.
Wait a minute. Okay, You've Got Mail. No, I've seen it. Yes.
Yeah, how can you not
Yes,
see
it
that?
is.
You got a young Dave Chappelle in that movie when he was just starting out.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even remember that. And Dave Chappelle was in that romantic comedy with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. You know,
Yeah.
I think about Meg Ryan. I think what happened to her career? Was it the barbiturate she was taking that made her tank? What on earth happened to the beloved Meg Ryan?
Well, I don't know. I think that people go through cycles, in their career, and I think that you'll get hot and then you'll fall off, and then and
show
then
business.
basically it's like what are the roles that you will pass up? It's like once you are an A-list star, like Meg Ryan,
Sure.
you do like these, you basically headline films, and then what do you do? Where do you go to your next best thing?
Yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, that's exactly. So it's like, how do you follow it up? And then, in the meantime, as you've just done a film, it's like, then you have another person that comes right behind you that is now like, they're the hot thing, and then they do a couple of films, and then like you're now 3 films out of the blockbuster arena, and they're looking for the next thing, and like, well, you were the thing back in that other movie, so you're not quite the thing now, so we're looking for the thing, it's like, it's all kind of screwed up, so I'm not gonna judge anybody on
okay.
why
Yeah.
they get out of the business or like stop working.
It's a hard business. So it's a hard business.
It is a hard business. It's a very hard business. And I think that like when people come to LA and they don't really know, most people come to Los Angeles and leave within 2 years after of getting here.
Absolutely.
And then whatever they're trying to do, and then you see, oh shit, like I'm not gonna be doing the James Dean at a coffee shop and someone's gonna see me and think I'm beautiful and then like put me in their films.
It doesn't happen that way.
No, it doesn't. So yeah, it's a grind, and I think like if there are actors listening to this right now, the only thing that you can do is like just be brilliant Like get into a class and put your stuff on a reel and make an impression, with what you're doing on film, and all the rest is just bullshit, So,
Yeah, and be careful on social media too.
True story.
Yeah, you know what happens there. What a time, man. It just trips me out that some people, they don't have anything else going on in their lives, and they'll definitely take to social media and, of course, try to get any information on you and go to your employer.
Yeah, that's messed up.
It's messed up, man.
Messed up.
Doesn't
Yeah,
matter
I
what
agree.
side you're on. It's just
I don't think
terrible.
that, I don't think that things that you do on social media, unless you're saying, go murder people, I don't think that has anything to do with like where you work. So if I work at a coffee shop and I go on and say something about, an opinion that I have or whatnot, and like my boss reads my opinion that I have, and I get fired because of an opinion, unless that opinion is, like I said, go hurt people, then I don't think that those two things should correlate.
Yeah, it should matter.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. And of course, I'm glad we had this discussion here about that, about the business. It's a very, very grimy business, and not everyone can make it. Of course, you have, like I said, done plenty of things. You've been involved a bit here in the business, and I'm sure you'll get more gigs as time goes on. And Preacher 6, that seems to, the release date says April 16th here. Oh wait, that's an update. Never mind. When exactly did this film come out?
It is. No, it's in post production, so it is
okay,
not out.
Post production, not out. Okay. Yeah, I was just like, wait a minute, what am I reading here? But yeah, it's not out yet, folks. Just in case you're wondering.
Not out yet, but
not
if
out
you
yet.
want to see Preacher 6, we have some trailers that are on YouTube if you want to check out the trailers. And it's pretty exciting. I mean, it's like that was a film. It's been 3 years in the making, and so we're coming to the finish line. So we're at the tail ends of post production, and hopefully it will be out soon on a DVD release within the next few months.
Nice. Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Very nice. And of course, I did want to mention another thing here. Since I've been talking a lot about found footage, I was curious if perhaps you might want to go down that road, since the popularity is pretty high still, and it really caught on in the last 5 years, I have to say.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know, man.
You might not go down there.
It's not for me.
Some people love it though.
I know they do, and that's
some
great.
people love it.
So I'm not going to judge, what people like. It's just not
not your thing. Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. And what kind of horror films do you like, by the way, Kyle? Love horror films here.
My favorite is The Shining.
A classic, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong there.
I think that if you have that kind of drama and acting and actual scary stuff, I think that's the best horror movie as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I know that there's other things that are more of the slasher type and that kind of thing, kind of campy stuff.
I'm not really too into that.
Like all the Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
That's all fun stuff, as far as like the slasher type. But I guess I'm more of the suspense, human drama horror films. I guess would be more my thing. I even like Jacob's Ladder. I love that film, and that's not really a horror film, but it's just super creepy and what am I watching right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad a pick right there. There is a sort of very different sort of film that came out called Pontypool. It's a very different sort of film. It has this disc jockey, a DJ, who's basically like in a radio station out in Canada, and there's like, I guess there's like these zombies out there, and it's a very, very different sort of story. For those that never have seen this film, it's a very interesting film. It's a very different angle on the whole take. You might actually like it, by the way. It's called Pontypool, Kyle.
Pontypool.
One word.
All right. Pontypool. Oh, I will have to check that out.
Yeah, it came out in 2008. I always thought that was a very interesting film in the way it was sort of done. You do have, it basically takes place inside of a radio station. I saw this film completely by accident, and I thought that was a pretty interesting concept for a film. And I think, just judging from what you just said right now, I think you would actually like it. It's very different.
Okay.
Very different.
Cool. Well, I will check it out.
Yeah, you like independent films, right? Of course, right?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, then you'll dig it. Speaking of independent films, which films could you recommend for those out there that who never really, I guess you could say, never really been too sort of keen on the whole independent film? Because lots of people don't even understand that that's like a genre, that these sort of independent films even exist. Lots of folks are just, really casual about film.
Well, here's what I would do. I mean, today it's like independent film basically means that it's not made by a studio.
Word.
So, back in the day, The Matrix was an independent film, so which it doesn't sound like really that was an independent film. So it's just how you define things. So it's like if you get people with like a few $1 million to make a movie that's not funded by Sony or Universal or whatever, then that's an independent film. So, but as far as like how to just to find good movies, it's like on Twitter you can find film. Just follow the hashtag support indie film or hashtag indie film. And people that are like the filmmakers of today that are just trying to get their stuff seen will be tweeting with those hashtags. So
right.
Yeah, blaze your own trail and be curious and and do some searching.
I got another movie recommendation for you. Another classic favorite of mine is called Coffee and Cigarettes. That came out back in 2003.
That sounds cool.
Oh yeah, it has Bill Murray and Iggy Pop, as well as the Wu-Tang Clan.
Nice.
It's another film that if you have not seen it, I definitely recommend it. Classic film.
Coffee and Cigarettes.
Coffee and Cigarettes, that's the name.
Cool.
You'll like
love
it.
Coffee.
Oh my goodness, I know, right? I like to call it a sugar crack. I really do. It's just that's kind of what it is. Well, the way that I make it, really. I think
no doubt.
I think it's safe to say that I am addicted to coffee.
Oh yeah.
I gotta have it every morning.
I'm a full-on addict. I love it. Yep.
I gotta have it, man. I'm not the same. I can't function without it.
No, and there are no
that's a real drug.
Save me from that. So I don't need to go to a meeting. I can quit whenever I want, which will be never. So we're just gonna say that right there.
I mean that's a real drug there for you. That one is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is like you think about it. You can open up a coffee shop, call it anything, and it's gonna make money anywhere. So it's like if you're an entrepreneur and you want to make money, open a coffee shop, and put some cool people in it, and and do that.
That's a good investment, actually.
Right? See,
coffee shop.
All I need is 5%. So anyone that opens a coffee shop listening to this podcast or this radio show, 5%, send it to Kyle Hester. Thank you.
Yes. Speaking of drugs, you do know that Denver actually legalized. They became the first state to legalize the psilocybin mushroom. Do you have any experience with mushrooms, by the way, Kyle?
You know what? I think that that's a beautiful thing. I think that is awesome. I think it's one of the things that it can help people.
I think so.
I believe.
I think the certain minds could definitely use it. Those with PTSD, or anyone that went through something traumatic. I definitely feel that the mushroom definitely has some properties in there that can definitely heal you, no doubt.
Definitely. I know it's been used in some tests with PTSD and also some psychology stuff and you know what? I am all for medicinal plants and healing, and so yeah, way to go, Denver.
I'm with you. And of course, we definitely are winding down soon here on the program. And, Kyle, here on the program, I talk about everything under the sun, basically. And earlier I was talking to a guest who basically created something called the Arc 2, which is like this underground facility out there in Canada. And he's been going at it for a long time now. And of course, we talked about time travel for a moment. And of course, we talked about ufology for a moment. That's another thing that I did want to talk to you about in terms of like film. There's lots of movies out there that made a lot of money on these sort of topics, and in terms of aliens and monsters per se, and all these other things, really. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about if you believe yourself in terms of the existence of aliens and all this sort of thing. Well, particularly extraterrestrials. Do you believe in that sort of thing, Kyle? You think they're out there?
Well, here's what I think about aliens and UFOs. Whether you believe in them or not, they are there. See what I did there?
Oh yeah, you got to put that music on.
Yeah, exactly. Got to put the music on for that, man. No, definitely. I mean, it's like if you look back into the Egyptian pyramids and the hieroglyphs and stuff like that. It's like there are hieroglyphs that look like a dude sitting in a spaceship, like with controls. I
agree.
So this is like thousands of years old. So, and with all of this stuff that you see on, pick a YouTube channel, UFO. Pick the Navy jet pilots are talking about their experiences with UFOs. I mean, it is undeniable.
Pretty crazy stuff, right? All over the mainstream media. A topic that you didn't think would be there, but there it is, front and center.
Yeah, I think it's like, eventually, things become undeniable. It's like, so have I met one? No.
Sure.
I spoken to people who have, been allegedly underground in Area 51, where they have the spaceship, that they re-engineered things for modern technology. Have I spoken to someone like that? Yes. So shit's real, basically.
And Kyle, do you think you would ever explore that sort of route?
Making a film about UFOs?
Sure, or anything of that nature.
I don't know. I think that the studios can do that, because you got to have a lot of money,
that's
to
true.
basically recreate everything, So I'll let the studios do that, and I'll deal with more people's stories and things that are on my particular financial scale at the moment.
How do you feel about the film Sharknado?
You know what? Sharknado.
I like that guy, by the way.
And it's hilarious, and I love the camp of it, and it's awesome. And story about David Latt. David Latt, who is the guy behind all those films.
Right,
and,
right. Yeah. I like him.
He's awesome.
I like the guy.
Me my first role here in Los Angeles. It was his first film and my first film in LA.
Wow.
It was a sorority girl block party. I think it's what it's called. And I played a college frat guy that went on a panty raid.
Oh, perfect.
So, yeah.
So
David Latt and I have a connection.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and I actually had asked him over Twitter. I said, "What drugs were you on when you created Sharknado?" And he just said, "PCP." So he's a good guy. I like that guy.
Yeah.
Great dude. He's got a sense of humor. But I'm astonished though that film it did as well as it did on the Sci-Fi Channel there. And of course, if there's multiple movies of that, then that means it must have been pretty good. Some
What
people
are
must
they
have
on?
loved
They're
it.
on like 6. I mean, it's a thing.
It's a
Like
series.
yeah, it is a series. I mean,
Holy crap.
basically that original thing, Sharknado has made their company enough money, to keep making a bunch of movies. And like once you have like, I think it's like Killer Tomatoes, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It's like the idea. It's just a marketing thing. It's like if
Kyle,
you can think
I
of
would.
something.
Kyle, I
What's
would. I was just gonna say I would strangle someone if I could ever be a part of a 6-part or 6-film movie series. Just like I would strangle someone to be a part of like like a TV show, a sitcom, or a cartoon that went over, let's say, like 100 episodes, because the residuals are going to be amazing.
Oh yeah.
I'd kill for something like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, basically, yeah. Once you're kind of set for life.
Hell yeah.
Something like that.
People don't understand that part of show business as well. We were just talking about the dark side, but there is an upside of it. The residuals, especially if you're like on a sitcom or something that goes like 100 episodes, you're gold. Yeah. You're gold, my friend. You made it.
Oh yeah,
you made
sure.
it.
It's when things get into syndication.
Wow.
So if you're on a show that goes like I think for more than 3 years, then it gets into syndication on the cable channels, and you're basically set.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to have that sort of luxury in my life. That sort of
maybe one day I'll get an agent again, and
you should, man.
Do those things.
You really should. I wanted to do the whole voiceover acting sort of thing, but that's
you have a great voice. You could do it.
I would really want to. I would want to do something like that if I would be able to come out like on a cartoon or like a video game or something that has multiple episodes in it. I would be set.
Hey man, you know what? You're not dead yet.
That's true. I'm not. I'm still kicking here.
See? That's what I'm saying.
I would love to do that. But we'll see what happens. I haven't given up yet on the fight. Even though I do talk a lot about celebrities here on the program, because I kind of am a little bit bitter here, Kyle, in terms of the radio business and how, I was trying to get back into, or I was trying to get in the business way back in 2006. And I got into it with a lot of people here locally, basically 86th down here locally, my friend. And that gave me a bad taste already for show business. And I've been very resentful since. And that fire is still with me here in 2019.
You know what? Things make a mark. Absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, I have stories too.
I'm sure, Kyle.
That's there's a lot of things that are unfair in these situations.
I'm telling you.
It's like where it kind of like your talent ultimately doesn't matter because of politics and favors.
I'm so glad you said that, Kyle, because sometimes the best don't always make it to the top. It's sometimes the worst.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's all about who you know.
That's kind of like what I try to tell people is like, you do whatever you do, just keep going, because that's all you can do. It's like how many times, that I've been through, the 4th, 5th, producer callback as an actor, doing the audition grind and whatnot.
It's a grind. That's true.
To have someone that I'd never seen before walk in and, hey man, what's happening? Good to see you again, bruh.
Oh boy.
And then they end up getting the part because they had a connection.
Yeah.
And so it's not fair. And the sooner you accept that and go, it's fucked up, it's not fair, and so what am I going to do about it? So that's kind of why, like I said, like I don't have an agent. I haven't been in the grind of of the audition scene and all that kind of stuff since I did The Chair. It was like, all right, I'm deep diving here into independent film. That's what I'm doing. I'm gonna make a mark, blaze a trail in this direction. I put like all my energy into this. So, and I hope it works out.
That's respectful,
You know
though,
what
man.
I mean?
I mean, you're trying hard and you're pushing forward, and like I said, you do have a leg up on a lot of people out there, Kyle.
Yeah. Well, I think here's the thing for somebody that would be dissuaded by that comment right there. It's like the leg up that I have is that I've been doing this my whole life.
Right.
So it's like whatever the time and effort that you want to put into something is what you will get out of it, and then you may decide, you know what, shit, that's too hard, I don't want to do that, and then go find something that you like to do that you don't have to, hope that somebody else will possibly maybe give you a chance, even though you went to Cal Arts and you're really good and you can do Shakespeare and you're like, you got all this like props, but then it's relying on somebody else's opinion. And that's why it's so hard.
Ooh, it's rough. Yeah.
To be in this business as an actor,
A lot of people get broken out there, Kyle, just going out to LA.
Yeah. I know.
Oh, man.
I know. I've seen it.
I've had friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Constitution must be strong,
Yeah, and you're a good guy, Kyle. You have a strong mindset about you.
I appreciate that. I try to set a good example and tell the truth, about what the reality is of it. It's like, like would I, if someone said, hey, Kyle, I really want to get into acting, then I would say, okay, here's what you do. So, get into a class. It's like I get like 5 messages a day. Hey man, you got any roles?
Yeah, how to break in. Yeah.
No, like, do you have any roles in your next movie?
Or roles.
And I look on your Twitter page and, don't really see anything about acting or anything. And, it's like, I'll shoot a message back. Yeah. Do you have a reel? No, man, I was just thinking about, I want to get into it. What do I do? And it's like, wow, okay. You could, first of all,
that's an uphill battle there.
It's an uphill battle. Get into a class, make a reel, so that like when somebody like me says, do you have a reel? Can I see what you can do? You have an answer for that question, and you can send something that will reflect what you can do, because everybody wants the illusion that they don't know what they're wanting. It's like, kind of going off on a tangent here.
No,
but,
I'm with you though. Wise words.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying though. I mean, it's like, I'm serious. Like 5 or 6 times a day, I will get a message on either of my Twitter things saying, "Hey, do you have a role?" In this, and then I will write back, "Do you have a reel?" And they will go, "Yeah, well, I don't have one right now. I just did this and that, and I'm, I don't." But it's like there's always a reason, why, and sometimes it's like before you reach out, to someone that you want to reach out to that might be a good connection for you, make sure that you have the answers to those questions and that you represent yourself well, because sometimes you only get one shot. You only get one real opportunity to make a first impression on somebody. So that would be my advice to people that want to reach out on social media, with, "Hey man, you got a role for me." You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I'm with you on that one. I'm sure there's lots of individuals that you come across who send you those kind of PMs. They want to sort of break in, but don't really have a clue.
Yeah, and it's, hey, I don't blame people for trying.
Of course
so
not.
I mean, it's like, you don't know unless you ask. But my that's why I put the caveat of advice of be prepared, for what people will expect back from you. Show that you can do what you're asking them to do.
Right. No doubt. And Kyle, I do want to thank you tremendously for being a part of the program. We definitely are running out of time here just ever so slightly. But of course, I do want to thank you. It's been a great conversation with you. I had a great time here on the program.
I did too. And thank you for having me on.
Yeah, Kyle, it was a great time. You're a great guy. And for sure, I do wish you the best on all your future endeavors. And definitely let me know what's going on with the newest films and projects you're doing. And we'll definitely do this again. And we'll talk about all that sort of stuff here.
Well, I certainly will, man. We will keep in touch. And thank you again. And thank you for everyone who listened to me babble.
Yeah, no doubt. And before I let you go here, before I cut you loose, Kyle, is there anything you want to plug? And of course, any other thing that maybe you want to get off your chest or that's on your mind? Here's that time to do it now, Kyle. The floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate that. I would just say if you are on Twitter, you can follow me at Kyle D. Hester. My real name is David, so that's where the D is, Kyle D. Hester. And then follow Preacher6 at Preacher6, all one word. And between those two things, you can definitely see what's happening. And I DM me if you have any questions, or if you just want to comment and say, you know what, you were a jerk because I was one of those people that asked you if I could have a role and you didn't, So, call me out if you want. But yeah, so I'm open for DMs, and it is me who will answer. I don't have like a secretary or anything like that. So yeah, reach out and take a ride on the independent film lane.
Amazing stuff. Once again, thank you so much, Kyle, for being a part of the program. We'll definitely touch base again in the near future, my friend.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, my friend. Mahalo. See you soon. Take care, Kyle.
Take care.
And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That was our second guest, Mr. Kyle Hester. Great guest indeed. I did enjoy him being on the program here. And of course, I do want to thank the first guest, Mr. Bruce Beach, rather. I'm not sure why I said Robert, but yes, Mr. Bruce Beach. Great first guest. And of course, we just listened to Mr. Kyle Hester. Definitely want to thank both of those individuals tremendously for being a part of the program. Had lots of fun with them. I hope you in the chat room enjoyed that one as well. And I do want to remind all of you that I do return again very soon. I believe it's Friday. I do have Misha Johnston, who will be on the program. I believe that is on Friday. Let me double check here, folks, because I don't want to give you the wrong date. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's right. June 7th, Misha Johnston. That's at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Misha Johnston. And of course, I will be returning yet again the next day, Saturday. This time, I will be joined by Mr. Matthew Landman. Great guest there. It's going to be fun. I definitely want to invite all of you out there to come right back here, and we'll do this again live next week. And I also want to remind all of you out there yet again, if you enjoy the program and want to help fund the program, which I really hope you do, there is a donation button on the right-hand side of your screen over at michaeldecon.com. If you can donate any amount, whatever you have around, all the money goes directly back into the program. Definitely help us out over here. Definitely help keep the lights on, keep things rolling. And of course, I do appreciate those who will listen on a replay. That's on Sunday night. Hello to those folks out there, and of course, the international listeners out there. Oh yeah, have lots of respect for all those people out there in the UK and Canada. Great folks out there. They have been definitely tuning in quite strong. Really appreciate those people out there. And of course, you out there on YouTube. You guys have been hanging around quite a bit here. Love all of you very, very much. And I'll be here next week. Stay safe out there, no matter where you are on this island Earth. I'm Michael Decon. I'll see you again very soon, my friends. And with that said, the world is a mysterious place, and life itself is a mystery. Until next time, good night, everybody.